Hello, and welcome to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. Boy, it's Friday at the end of a very, very long and troublesome and crazy and interesting week. Tonight, I want to talk about two things just before we get underway, and I'm going to keep my comments brief because we know we have Mr. Don Vappy with the Song of the Week, New Orleans Banjo Genius. We have Stanton Moore from Galactic and the venue Tipitinas from New Orleans tonight. And we have Christoph Dorneman with the Drink of the Week. I want to just mention, number one, this week, we took a very disturbing turn in America towards fascism in a very classic and scary sense. Donald Trump went to Kenosha, did not condemn the actions of a murderer who came to a protest and shot 3 people. This is a terrifying time to be an activist when you have militia in the streets, illegal vigilantes in the streets coming to shoot us with AR-15s. Make no mistake, that person, those 2 guys who got shot are, first of all, are heroes for trying to disarm this man. 3 guys that got shot, 2 died, 1 lost his arm. That could have been me. That could have been you. That could have been anybody out at those George Floyd protests. There could have been anybody out at these protests for Black Lives Matter. It could be your children. It could be your brother, your sister, your neighbor. This cannot happen. It must be condemned. And number 2, Donald Trump calling upon his attorney general to start to process arresting the leadership of Black Lives Matter. This is straight up Gestapo tactics. This cannot be allowed to stand. We need to organize in every swing state in this nation, from PA to Texas to Arizona to North Carolina to Ohio, to get this man out of office. This is incredibly dangerous. We are sliding towards direct fascism in America. This is as serious as it possibly can be. This is lawlessness, vigilante justice, and murder. And the other topic that we need to explore today is Red Alert Restart. We have the fireplace colored red tonight. Red Alert Restart is all of these independent venues across the United States are putting red lights up in front of their venues. Because live music and live entertainment venues are in a lot of trouble right now. They're not getting the assistance they need, where the bailout money is running out. And we need, this is an independent venue we got right here. We need assistance to be able to stay doing what we're doing. So tonight we have Stanton Moore from Tipitinas, the legendary Tipitinas in New Orleans, to come on and talk about the hurdles that venues face. And we're going to talk to him about that. But tune into this, Red Alert Restart. All these venues that have been dark for months now are having red lights up in front. I've already lost so many favorite venues in my lifetime to gentrification and economic inequality and poor planning. And we've already lost several venues that I love, movie theaters and all these places. We have to start to stand with independent venues. So Red Alert Restart. All right, let's start the show. Let's bring on Mr. Don Vappy with our Song of the Week. Don.
Yes, sir.
Donald Trump is saying he wants to arrest the leadership of Black Lives Matter. If nothing sounds to me like Nazism, that's what that sounds like.
Man, I don't know what to say about this cat, because he's just not. You can't pay attention to what he says. You have to kind of watch what he does. Because he says things to throw you off, because he's a really, really good con man.
Yeah, but he's doing these things. Like there are like unmarked vans pulling people out off the streets, federal troops. He's talking about defunding New York City. I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, this has to be stood up against, in my view. I mean, this is a dangerous, dangerous step. That's full-blown fascism. You start talking about arresting the leaders of opposition, political parties, opposition groups. I mean, that's textbook Stalin, Hitler craziness,
Yeah, it is. It is. And the problem is that we had a chance to do something, but they didn't remove him from office. They impeached him.
Well...
And,
well, I think it's our chance at the moment. It's on us.
I don't know if protesting is going to help, because he's gotten such a hold in the different institutions. I mean, Bill Barr and Mitch McConnell are worse than Trump, because they go along with it. See?
Well, I think protesting does matter at the local level. I think protests have gotten great strides in a lot of cities right now, especially. And I think it is a moment where we get to elevate these issues through protest. Does protest affect Donald Trump? No, Donald Trump doesn't care about anything but himself. It was brought up on this program earlier by Jonathan Myberg of Shearwater, that Donald Trump has no friends.
No, he wouldn't. Somebody like that wouldn't.
I mean, normally you might challenge that and be like, well, I guess wasn't Michael Cohen his friend? It wasn't Roger Stone his friend? It wasn't
Man, look what he's done.
Stormy Daniels his friend or something? I don't know. I mean, he doesn't even look like he's got a good relationship with anyone, let alone like his wife, nobody.
People that he's dealt with have been the greatest, the best people. And then when they do something he doesn't like, he claims to not even have met them.
Right.
So, I mean, he's
a total sociopath. You got to watch out for people who don't have any friends. That's a scary person who has no friends. Yeah. You know, Don, I am personally so hurt by watching three of my brothers in the streets of Kenosha gunned down by a crazy Nazi white supremacist with an AR-15, 17 years old. And now people are calling this man a hero. And I'm hurting over this. Like, I'm grieving over this. And we are grieving over Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake related to one of our good friends in New Orleans. I can't say the name of the person of the family, but it's been personal here.
Right.
And so much of this happens personally within the Black community. Can you talk a little bit about the personal aspect of this because I know that the song we're going to do is going to help us heal a little bit, help us commemorate this moment a little bit.
Well, first off, man, the kid, I'm going to say kid because he was 17. And I have to say that he was taught that.
Yeah, he was taught that.
So I really feel sorry for him, but at the same time, I feel sorry for all of these people that hate so much. And I just don't know if the response, if to hate back is the response. I don't think that's it. I mean, we just got to keep going forward. I mean,
Do you see hate coming back though? I mean, is that what you're seeing?
No, I don't, but it's close, man. I mean, it could be self-defense, but he shot one of his guys in Portland. I mean.
Oh, well, I did watch the video of.
It's
and that guy was walking around with pepper spray.
Yeah, and
he was just randomly pepper spraying people in the streets. At the same time, it definitely looked like the gunman was looking for an opportunity to claim some type of self-defense so he could. I mean, the whole thing. We've got to stop the people getting shot, the violence, the shot. You got to stop that.
The Brookings Institute wrote something that really, I'm like, whoa. They call it acceleration.
Okay.
They're trying to break down all of the institutions, the police, the norms, break down all the norms to where you can start a war, an internal war. And there's a group that's exactly how you. I mean, we've got.
You're saying that because
examples,
the police and Donald Trump and the federal troops are breaking down the norms, that they're pushing that button to accelerate.
Yeah, I don't think all police, but a lot of people are. They get offended. Not offended, but they get. They just go through the roof when you say defund the police. That's why I was careful about using that term, because I could completely agree that reallocating funds that police departments get maybe for mental health services to make a call like that. I mean, domestic violence calls have always been the most dangerous for police. But the way police deal with Black people and the way police deal with white people in general has been different. There's not every policeman. I'm not going to say that because I don't want my words to be taken wrong. But man, it's a problem. And I mean, we do need to deal with these things differently,
You're tuned in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. We'll be right back. You're tuned in to Staying Home. This is Josh Fox. This is your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. I'm here with Don Vappy. We're going to do the song of the week. Don, what's this song? You played this song at the very beginning with George Floyd and the George Floyd protests. We're playing it again tonight. Talk about it, and then let's hear it. I think we all need a song to get us through this week and this moment.
Yeah, well, it's an old song. It's How Come You Do Me Like You Do? And at the time, I altered the lyrics a bit to kind of fit what I was feeling, because how come you do me like you do? Why do you fear me like you do? You think, do you think I want revenge? I mean, why do you kneel on me till I turn blue? You're killing me. And every time something like this happens, I go back, Trayvon Martin. Hey, we just had the anniversary of the death of Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that Emmett Till was murdered. I call it murder, lynched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The year before I was born, man, a few months. I'm born in January of 56. He was killed August of 55. Now you can imagine parents, man. I can. Anyway, I'm just going to play this, man, because it's like nobody's trying to hurt you. People out there that are afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Black people aren't trying to hurt you.
Right.
It's not about color. It's always about some money and power, and they will divide you. Anyway. How come you do me like you do, do, do? How come you do me like you do? Why do you fear me like you do, do, do? I ain't looking for revenge on you. Now can't you treat me right and show respect to me? Or maybe black and brown skin is all you see. How come you do me like you do, do, do? How come you do me like you do? Now how come you do me like you do, do, do? How come you do me like you do? Why do you kneel on me till I turn blue? Does my life mean nothing to you? Is it the guilt in your soul from Jim Crow and slavery? Or maybe it's just that black and brown skin is all you see. How come you do me like you do, do, do? Why do you fear me? Why do you fear me like you do? Jameer Rice, Trayvon Martin, Brianna. And every day you wake up, it's in your face. Even this banjo was something that made us hate. And we brought it here. How come you do me like you do, do, do? How come you do me like you do? Why do you kneel on me till I turn blue? Does my life mean nothing to you? Now is it the guilt in your soul from Jim Crow and slavery? Or maybe it's just that black and brown skin is all you see. How come you do me like you do, do, do? Why do you fear me like you do? Is it because you used to lynch us? How come you fear me like you do? Is it because of the Tulsa riots? How come you do me like you do? It's because the only way you think you can get by is to push a man down. All we need is some fairness, we all the same. How come you do me like you do? You gotta cut that out. It's gotta stop. It's gotta stop.
Music can bring us the message in a way that nothing else can. Don Vappy, thank you so much for being with us tonight. As always, every Friday, the song of the week. And we'll see you next week, man.
Keep the faith and vote early. You can check on vote.org to see when you can possibly vote early. You know, early voting in Louisiana, they cut it back to 1 week. So I'm just saying it'd be a good idea to avoid as much trouble as we can and vote early, because I'm mail in is great if that's all you can do. Mail it in, but man, this one's gonna be rough, man.
All right, thanks, Don.
Thank you.
As always, Don Vappy, the legendary banjo player from New Orleans, giving us the song of the week, and we'll see him next week. Thanks, Don. So next up on Staying Home with Josh Fox, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal, we've got Stanton Moore coming to us from Tipitinas, and he's behind the drum set. Oh my God, what riches await us. I didn't know. I thought you were going to just talk to us, but if you would play, that would make me so happy. Let me just say, Stanton, I have to say, Galactic, I saw you guys in Arise Fest a long time ago, and I am a regular at Tipitinas. Tipitinas, one of the greatest venues in the country in New Orleans. Galactic is in ownership of that, and we're talking about Red Alert Restart. We have the fireplace colored red for our venues. So Stanton, we want to talk about music, but we definitely want to talk about venues. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it. And, you know, I've been watching some of your streams, and Don, that was, man, I was on mute. I was playing brushes along with Don. I was checking it out. I was watching one of Don's episodes. So what you're doing is great. I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you for having me. And yes,
thank you.
You know, independent venues are in trouble and are on the verge of going extinct. And this Save Our Stages, Red Alert, I mean, the auto industry got a bailout, financial industry got a bailout, independent venues and the music industry need help. And we're not asking for a handout. We're just asking for some help. You know, Josh, I'm sure you're aware of this, but a lot of these independent venues have been around for 20, 30 years and have been in neighborhoods before the neighborhoods were really economically viable. And they've been there and helped lead the charge. And now you've got, you know, economically thriving communities built around these venues. And
because of the venues.
The venues were first to be there. And now you've got coffee shops, restaurants, high dollar condos around these venues. And now the venues need help. You know, as you already know, we're one of the first to shut down, and we're going to be one of the first to reopen. And so, you know, if people watching this can reach out to Congress and ask for them to support the Save Our Stages Act, it's going to go a long way to saving these venues. And I'm hearing a lot from a lot of people how much live music means to them and how much they miss it. So
listen, let me just say this. As a drummer myself, growing up playing in CBGBs in the punk and reggae ska era back in the 80s, and a lot of people don't know that about me, but that is my origin. And all of the great clubs that I played in back in New York City eats its young. New York City does not protect its cultural institutions. And when I walked into Tipitinas for the first time, I felt that vibe. I felt that this was a place that I was at home, whether I was seeing Big Frida or Tank and the Bangas or Naughty Professor or Lee Scratch Perry, which is, I think I just saw last year. I mean, like the list goes on and on of the amazing acts. I've been on the stage there doing a political speech, opening up for my good friend Naco Bear. But we talk about what the character of a place is. I tell you, I hate going to see shows at the House of Blues. It's just a corporate atmosphere. I can't feel good, because you feel that there's a corporation there sucking your money out. It's this plasticized, laminated experience. But when you go to Tipitina's, you get the real deal. You get the feeling that people run this place and that people are on stage, and that's why it's so crucially important. So thank you so much for doing that. Talk about the Tipitina's particular thing that you guys were doing. You were doing auctions for artwork and other things.
Yeah, so Tipitina's being a venue, just like all venues right now, we've been forced to close our doors. So recently, what we have done is we just started Tipitinas.tv, which is
All right.
so we already had cameras in place and we were streaming with nugs.net, but we weren't usually charging for it. We were just kind of putting it out there. So once things started shutting down, we realized we need to figure out a way to turn this into a revenue producing stream. And so we are Saturday night is episode 4. So episode 1 was Galactic, episode 2 was Rebirth, episode 3 was Anders Osborne, and it's been really well received. And people can get a season pass to it, or they can buy the individual shows. But that's one of the things, I know your show is talking about staying at home and what musicians have been doing during this pandemic. And that's one of the things that we've been focused on. And now we're able to do it. And that feels great, because otherwise it's not going to help replace the revenue that we've lost, but it feels like a tiny step in a good direction.
Right. Stay with us. This is Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. I'm Josh Fox, and we'll be right back. So you're tuned in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. We're talking about music, and we're talking about venues. We're here with Stanton Moore of Galactic, and also of the great club founded, I believe, by Professor Longhair, Tipitina's in New Orleans, Uptown. And it's one of these things that we talk a lot about on this show, how we need cultural preservation, cultural protection, cultural landmark laws. We landmark buildings, right? We're not going to tear down Carnegie Hall. Why don't we landmark our culture as well and make that, because you're so right. All of those neighborhoods from the Lower East Side in New York, all across the country, were popularized by the music venues. And then, that created trillions, I'm sure, of dollars of value. Why not give some of that back to make sure that we don't lose these crucial institutions?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, high dollar places to live are great, but what if there's nothing to live for around it, Right. So I can't overemphasize the importance of Tipitina's to us. That's why we never sought out to buy a bar or buy a venue. We had the opportunity to save our favorite venue in the world and a cultural landmark. So we were like, let's do it. And now, of course, we find ourselves holding the bag during this global pandemic.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll talk about the economics of this, though, because the bottom line is that it's so tough to make it at all, ever. Was there a part of the bailout package that you as a small business had access to? Was that a possibility? And is that money now running out if you ever got it? Or what's the situation?
Well, we did get some PPP and that's been helping, but the Save Our Stages will go a long way to really be able to pay bills. I mean, we can't pay our mortgage with PPP and we need to keep paying the mortgage. And so, we need to keep the doors open. Well, right now the doors are closed, but we need
open in the sense,
to be able to exist. We need to pay the bills until we can open as we used to. And, we're really doing what we can, but we need all the help we can get.
I'm really looking forward to the day when we change the name of this program to Going Out with Josh Fox, because this started as a live version of a thing we were doing at One-Eyed Jack's, another great venue in the French Quarter. And One-Eyed Jack's, we did stories, and we did, I was performing, and we had music, and we had politics built in, and it was a very successful event. So we are rooted in the idea of New Orleans and culture. I don't think there's a night at all where I stay at home in New Orleans. You just don't do it. You just walk out your door, and that's life.
Right.
What is the psychological impact, you think, on people right now in without live music, without places to assemble?
I know that people are really missing it and yearning for it. And what I hope the long time psychological effect on the public in general will be is a greater appreciation for
Right,
music
I think so.
culture and realizing that music doesn't just appear out of the air for free, that there are people creating it who make their living creating it. And without a revenue stream, these people are going to stop creating music. So if you like music, it's good to support music. And now that we're on the verge of losing live music, hopefully people are missing it and yearning for it enough to where they'll appreciate it and be willing to support it on a grander level when we get out.
Aside from just the political movement of this red alert restart and save our stages, is there a way to people to donate like right away? Because
Yeah.
I would do that, because honestly, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's Friday night. I would be going out to Tipitina's. I would be going out to Bacchanal. I would be going out to a place, whatever. And I got to just send them my $20 right now, just because I want to make sure that in the future, is there a way for people to do that?
Yeah, for Tipitina's, you can just go to tipitinas.com and click on Friend Indeed. And then it goes straight. There's a PayPal link and a Venmo link.
It's also a moment. Sorry, did I cut you off there?
No, it's just,
musicians are more dependent on live performing than ever, too, because of Spotify and streaming services. And nobody's buying records anymore. As Gillian Welch said, everything is free now because we don't pay for music. I grew up paying for music, buying records. I own over 1,000 records, but we don't do that anymore. And talk about that's an extra level to this crunch, to this squeeze. Is that not right?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. As what we were seeing is more and more people making their living touring. So bands coming out of retirement, bands coming into reunion stuff, and bands that have been making revenue off of records. But there are so many young bands who are starting up and they're realizing, oh, if we want to make anything of this, we have to tour. So we used to plan tours 6 months in advance and we thought we were way ahead of things. Then it became 8 months. Then it's become over a year. So luckily we've been doing it for 25 years, but we were holding dates. Like we knew that one was coming up in March. We already knew the next March that we would be there again because they knew it was a probable or highly guaranteed sellout. So luckily we kind of got into a yearly rotation, but now, it was becoming there was so much competition of young bands and older bands. Everybody was touring to make revenue, and now you can't even tour. So
even people at that level of touring arenas or big festivals, that's galactic. But we talk a lot with musicians in New Orleans and all over the country who are touring to 100-seat venues, 200-seat venues, working with their tip jar, all that stuff, from Don Vappy to John Boutte to my friend Dustin Hammond to, so it's a nightly exercise where you're making that dollar. But let's talk for a second about your influences as a drummer. I know you've spoken about the Meters, Dr. John, the Professor Longhair, the Neville family. Talk about the musical lineage of Galactic and of your drumming in particular.
Yeah, for me, growing up as a kid in the suburbs of New Orleans, naturally I was drawn to first classic rock and things that I heard on the radio. And then when I was starting to go to punk rock shows at the VFW hall and different places in New Orleans, I was going to punk rock shows, Jimmy's, Muddy Waters, all these places. And then I was at a punk rock party and a guy put on a record of the Meters. And I had heard some of their Mardi Gras stuff and some of the stuff you'd hear on the radio. But this is the first time I heard Look a Pie Pie, the instrumental stuff from start to finish on a record. And it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a mix between improvising with jazz and hitting hard in rock. I was like, this is I think the direction I want to go in. So then of course I started discovering Dr. John, the Neville Brothers, the Dirty Dozen Brass Band, Professor Longhair. I just started getting more and more into that. And then I'm the kind of person who once I learn something, I want to learn where did that come from. So I started getting into the Mardi Gras Indians and all that. Then, I could talk about this all night, but all those things started to inform my drumming. And the individual drummers like Zigaboo Modelis, Johnny Vodakovich, James Black, Russell Batiste, Shannon Powell, Herlin Riley. For people who aren't familiar with these names, that might be going by really quick, but when I talk about these names, I'm just spouting out saints. Like these guys are like religion to me, and who I am without them.
It's interesting. New Orleans is one of the only places in the world where the local bands get more people to come than the outside big touring bands. I've gone to see Broken Social Scene at the Joy, 100 people there. I went to see Dirty Projectors at that venue, I forget what his name, down at Chapatulas. There was 80 people there. Sleigh Bells, 90 people. If Tank and the Bangers is on, that place is sold out. If Big Frida is on, it is sold out. If you have, Naughty Professor, they're on, it is sold out. It's because the local has a tradition there that Galactic, I think, is a part of. I don't know if you're prepared, but you look like you're prepared. I would love it if you wanted to break anything down just to play.
Yeah.
We have a couple minutes. We have 2 minutes, and let's just demonstrate that. And before we do this, I have to say, this is Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. I'm Josh Fox. We'll be right back. You're tuned in to Staying Home with Josh Fox, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. I have Stanton Moore here from Galactic. Let's drop a beat, or whatever you want to do, man. Like a face melting moment right here. And you can get a sense of what it would be like to watch on Saturday night, Tipitinas.tv, right?
Yeah, Tipitinas.tv. Tank and the Bangers are coming up, actually.
On Saturday?
The are coming up. Samantha Fish is coming up. Yeah, but people can get on.
I'm on this. For sure.
Please. And, you can, if you get the season pass, you can go back and watch the Galactic show, the Rebirth show, Anders show. And I've been watching them on Saturday nights, and we talk about what are we going to order for food that night? What are we going to make for drinks that night? Like it's become as close as you can get to live music right now.
Well, I want to tell everybody watching this program, sign up for that season pass, and then watch our next segment with Christophe Dornman from Arnaud's French 75, the cocktail of the week. Stanton Moore, thank you so much for what you're doing. We're going to keep it alive. We're never going to let that place close. It's not going to happen.
No, can't
We're not going to let any of our sacred venues get lost in this.
And French 75, moment. I love French 75.
All right, perfect segue. Stanton, thank you so much. Tipitinas TV, get your season pass. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Josh.
So let's bring on the man, the legend, the myth, Mr. Christophe Dorneman. I am ready with my shaker right here to do the cocktail of the week. Christophe, are you with me? Here,
Hello, yes, I am.
I see him walking over. Let me just say, that was extraordinary. Oh my God. It felt like I was back at Tipitina's. Oh, it makes me crazy. I'm going to walk.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Stanton Moore, and I know he comes to our bar or came to our bar pretty often, and always a pleasure to serve him. Huge fan of Galactic, one of my favorite New Orleans modern funk bands. And when I saw him on the show, I was really excited. So
what an embarrassment of riches we have had this week. To counter the fascism in the streets, we have Don Vappy, we have Stanton Moore, we have Randy Bryce, we have the New Hampshire Youth Coalition, we have Christoph Dorneman. We went a little long with Stanton, so we have a little bit less time. But from what I understand, this drink is a little bit more simple. It's one of the first ones we've ever done, right? 7.5 minutes to make a. What are we making?
We're gonna make a Gold Rush. Yeah, it's actually the first drink that we made for the show back in the day. Seems like forever ago, but it's just a very basic cocktail that is really satisfying, and is also not a very well-known cocktail. And it's just a perfect thing for somebody to make for themselves at home or for their friends. So, all right.
The Gold Rush. I feel the rush. I do. And every moment that I spend with you, Christoph, is gold. That's how I feel about it. But I'm telling you, man,
so much,
we're, we've been, I think in about a month's time, and I'm not going to guarantee this, I think we'll be shifting operations down to the great city of New Orleans to be coming to you from a different studio. The secret cause of us being here in Pennsylvania is that I've been shooting a movie out in the woods, and my girlfriend, the wonderful Ranger Bunn, Kaylee Bunn, has had a job doing her rangering out in the woods here in PA, but it's almost over. And we're going to come back to the great city of New Orleans, and who knows, maybe even broadcast from on the street. We'll see what we can do, but we have to fight for our culture. Anyway,
yes,
lay it on me.
Yeah, all right. So you're going to get your bourbon.
I have
whiskey that you have,
some whiskey right here. A good, this is a whiskey that comes from Saskatchewan. No, I'm kidding. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're just going to do 2 ounces of your whiskey.
2 ounces of my finest whiskey that I'm not going to even name because it's not very fine. All right. Let's keep going.
All right. And then you're going to use honey. So I do a mix of a little bit of honey and a little hot water. So it makes it easier to pour. But if you're doing raw honey, it works fine, but it is kind of messy.
Well, guess what? I'm doing this raw honey, and this is a honey that comes from right down the street from me. You can't see it, but I can literally ride my bike, and it's in the middle of like 2 miles of dirt road, and you see these like 4 or 5 different crates, and that's where this honey comes from. Tyler Hill, awesome. Pennsylvania, Adams Apiary, 40 Ellison Road. If you're in Tyler Hill, Pennsylvania, drop by there.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, raw honey, local honey is great, and it is good for the environment, and also is delicious. So, yeah, for you, I would probably you're going to do a little less than a half an ounce of that.
I used 1 knife glob full. So whatever that is what's going in here.
1 knife glob, but you might want to do 2. You'll see how you like the taste at the end.
It's pretty, I think it's pretty thick with the honey goodness here. I'm mixing it.
All right, and then you're going to do 3/4 ounces of lemon juice.
The wonderful addition, my favorite ingredient in any cocktail, I have to say, these days is the lemon juice. I've just been super into the lemons. I think maybe it's the vitamin C, maybe it's the freshness, maybe it's the summer.
Yeah, for me, it's the summer. I mean, I like a stir drink, but lately it's been a lot of sours, a lot of, gimlets and daiquiris and gold rushes. It's just a nice way to keep.
I think it just makes you feel refreshed at the same time as you're getting smashed. All right.
All right, then you're good to go. I mean, you have your lemon juice, you have your honey, and your bourbon.
And I put in the ice.
Now you can do this drink on the rocks. I kind of like to do it on the rocks.
Are we shaking this one?
Sorry, what? Yeah, you're going to shake it. Any cocktail that has juice is going to be shaken for the most part. So there we go.
Now, this is the Gold Rush. How is this? Damn it. Okay.
The chocolate's the hard part. There you go.
I'm learning, but I always get stage fright. So this you want to do on the rocks, but I'm just going to strain it first.
Yeah, you don't have to do it on the rocks. I'm going to do it on the rocks.
And how is this different from the bee's knees?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just a variation on the bee's knees using bourbon. So the bee's knees is a classic cocktail. The Gold Rush is like a modern classic cocktail. but it just makes sense. I mean, bourbon is often like one of the flavor profiles of bourbon is honey, cloves, things like that, and it just works so well with the lemon and honey. It's just a really smooth, beautiful way.
Quite simple, easy for you guys to make at home. Stay home, drink this, go watch Tipitina's TV.
Yeah, that sounds great. I gotta check that out.
Oh man. Woo! Like Nick, like Jack Nicholson would say, an Easy Rider. If you haven't seen Easy Rider, what are you doing watching this
Yeah,
program?
seriously. And
Go
and
watch
the
Easy
New
Rider.
Orleans, so.
I try to model my entire life off of all the things that Peter Fonda doesn't say in Easy Rider. Everything that's on his face. Just so stoic. Of course, he's Peter Fonda. Wow, the Fondas. I have a great fondness for the Fondas, all the Fondas. Peter, Henry, Jane. It's true. So we have 2 minutes. So let's
cool.
just talk a little bit while we drink
already.
about the future of bartending in New Orleans. Have the bars reopened or what?
No. So what's been happening is bars are still closed, which has been very controversial because they're going to allow the Saints games to happen again. There's a few things that are going
Saints
on.
games are on?
Well, they're allowing the public to show up to the second Saints game of the season, which is going to be later in September. So we're at this kind of very tricky situation. There's some legendary bars that are rumored to be potentially closing for good.
Like what?
Some bars, yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I've heard that Mimi's is maybe going to close for good. One of my favorite of all time.
That would kill
I
me
hope that-
dead. Mimi's is
Yeah.
the most important. Oh my God, I can't do that. I will go and.
Some bars are repositioning themselves to be restaurants in whatever way they can, because then they can technically be open, which seems kind of weird it's just like a loophole that you just relabel yourself that way. But I understand that they need to make money, and there's really no bailout program for these small businesses. So yeah.
Wow.
So anyways,
Well,
it's entertaining the situation, and we're hoping for the best. And I mean, the numbers are getting better, so in theory, we're going to be in a position where these people can make business again. But I hope for the best.
Let's make a toast to Mimi's and the Marini and all the great venues and all the great places. Thank you so much. We must preserve our culture. It's not about drinking. It's about who we are. It's about the tastes, the sounds, the smells, all the things that we do when we go out. Let's fight for that. Until next time, this has been Staying Home. Let's get to a place where we can go back out. Let's make sure we contain this disease. Thanks, Christoph.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
that's Anna.
Jumping music, slick DJs, fog machines, and laser rays. Look out weekends, cause here I come. Because weekends were made for fun. Look out weekend, cause here I come. Because weekends were made for fun, fun, fun. I work hard every day. It's all work and no play. With the boss on my back, he don't give me any slack. I sit down, I daydream of how my weekend's gonna be.
Girl, I wish you would.
Hey, that's Anna.
Jumping music,
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Jake Ugranic experiencing with you guys. Lots of fun programming notes to begin with. So first of all, no show on Labor Day on Monday, so don't panic. It's going to be okay. But we love you guys for panicking. And then on Tuesday, we're going to make it up for you. Bernie's birthday bash. So we've been telling you about this for a little while. 7:30 p.m. Eastern after the regular show. But wait, now a shocking surprise guest. Confirmed today. I'm not kidding, and you will be genuinely surprised. Like, really? Huh. Wonder who that is. Okay, so don't miss it. You'll love it. And tonight, fun little programming note for you guys. Twitch.tv/TYT. Common Room is back. It's couples night. John and Arlene and Brett and Brooke Marks. Okay?
Jesus, you guys have good-looking wives. It's insane.
God bless. God bless. Okay. All right. Lots of stories for you guys tonight, and there will be rage. So let's get started.
All right. Michael Forrest Reinell, the Portland man who admitted he was responsible for the fatal shooting of a right-wing radical during a night of clashes with Trump supporters, was killed by cops as they attempted to apprehend him. This is based on what the authorities are alleging happened. We don't have too many details, but this has to do with the suspect who shot and killed Aaron Danielson, a member of Patriot Prayer. Now, the U.S. Marshals said a task force was attempting to arrest Michael Forrest right now in Washington state. He was wanted for this charge of murder. Now, the initial reports indicate the suspect produced a firearm, so they're alleging that he had a weapon on him, threatening the lives of law enforcement officers. Task force members responded to the threat and struck the suspect, who was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, as this was happening, as the authorities were attempting to apprehend him, Vice actually aired an interview with Reinell. He agreed to speak to the press, and he did confess to shooting Aaron Danielson, but says that he did it in an act of self-defense because Danielson was attacking him and a friend with a knife. Now, we do know, based on local reporting at the time, that Danielson did in fact have a knife on him, and he also did have a paintball gun. So there is some evidence corroborating that. But without further ado, here is Michael Reinell speaking to the press and explaining why he decided to open fire, killing Aaron Danielson.
I had no choice. I mean, I had a choice. I could have sat there and watched them kill a friend of mine of color. But I wasn't going to do that. You know, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. My name is Michael Forrest Reinell, born and raised Portland, Oregon, 48 years old. You know, lots of lawyers suggest that I shouldn't even be saying anything, but I feel it's important that the world at least gets a little bit of what's really going on, because there's been a lot of propaganda put out there. What I will say is that I felt that my life and other people around me's lives were in danger. And I felt like I had no choice but to do what I did.
So before the authorities shot and killed him, he had also mentioned to the press that he is not a member of Antifa, despite the fact that was widely reported. He did describe himself as 100% anti-fascist, but never said that he was 100% Antifa, which was something that was originally alleged. Cenk.
Yeah, so first of all, Rhino should not have gone there with a weapon. Like Kyle Rittenhouse, put the weapons away. Don't go in the middle of heated, passionate situations with guns, because then people will use them. And soon, both sides will be using them. Well, they're already both sides using them. What I'm worried about is both sides using them at the same time. So this has got disaster written all over it. Okay. And I'm going to, in a little bit later, give you some quotes of his where he did talk about potentially using force. Now, having said that, Kyle Rittenhouse defenders say, well, you know, he was hit with a skateboard after he shot someone else in the head, so he had every right to kill the guy who was trying to apprehend him or stop him from killing anyone else. Self-defense, right? Well, in this case, apparently there was definitely a knife. And so that's much worse than a skateboard. So definitely self-defense. So all right-wingers agree, right? Self-defense, because you just said it about Rittenhouse. And in this case, it appears to be a more significant case of self-defense. So you're all on Reinhold's side, right? Oh, you're not. That's so weird. See, I'm consistent on it. Both of them should not, both the right-winger and the left-winger should not have gone with weapons, and they should not have used those weapons. But the right wing will say, oh, when the right wing does it, at the slightest provocation, or after Rittenhouse shoots someone in the head, and someone chases him down, he's being chased down after shooting someone in the head, self-defense, not guilty. The other guy, oh, there's a knife and he might have killed someone. No, not self-defense. Why? I don't know. He's left-wing. Like, it doesn't require rationale. So now let's look at the cops and whether they were consistent or not. Rittenhouse goes and murders 2 people and shoots 3 and walks up to the cops with his assault
illegal weapon.
Yeah, illegal assault weapon hanging out. Cops are like, hey, how you doing? They let him walk right up to their car. Okay, if he's black, he's already dead. You're walking up to a cop car with an assault weapon. Dead. dead, no question about it. Rittenhouse saunters up after killing 2 people. So the cops are like, hey, how you doing? And then they let him go. Now, in the case of Reinhold, the cops chase him down a couple of days later. Now, this is super important. Every right-winger online is lying. Every one of them is like, oh, he shot at the cops. He shot at the cops. What are you going to do? He shot at the cops. Of course they had to murder him. No, that's not true. According to the latest reporting, here's CNN. Initial reports indicate that the suspect produced a firearm. They say it's not known if Reinhold fired at the officers. Okay, so believe me, if he had fired at the officers, the first thing the cops would have said is, he fired at us, we had to kill him. He fired at us, murderer, terrorist, right? If the cops aren't saying he fired at him, there's a 200% chance that he didn't fire at them. So, oh, he's running away and he produced a firearm. Yeah, let's just kill him. And so, do I trust the cops that they were under threat? No, I don't. The cops are always on the right-wing side. The cops are always against black people and always against the left wing in nearly every instance that we've covered. So, oh, trust cops on blind faith. You must be nuts. And look at the fact patterns here. One guy, oh, yeah, you want to come right up to us with an assault weapon. Oh, you're a right-winger and you just murdered left-wingers. Who cares? Come on up, buddy. Oh, you told us. Oh, that's okay. Go home. The other guy, oh, he might be running away and he produced the firearm. He didn't shoot it or anything. He had plenty of opportunity, apparently. We don't know. We'll find out more. Right? But right now, the story is he produced a firearm. So good enough. Shoot him. Dead. So there's no end to the hypocrisy.
I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. The hypocrisy is there. We've been pointing it out every single day. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't point it out every single day, but I'm personally done feeling angry at the hypocrisy because they know that they're being hypocritical. They're intentionally being hypocritical. They're intentionally applying a double standard. And we're trying to reason with people who think it's totally okay for, first of all, for police to do extrajudicial killings in this country without allowing people to have their day in court, without allowing people to go through due process and the criminal justice system. They think it's totally fine, right? As long as it impacts specific groups of people. So there's that. And they're just not interested in fairness. They're not interested in equality. These are people who aren't interested in the facts. And so once you kind of accept that they're not honest actors, that they engage in these conversations and these debates with bad faith, well, then it's not that the anger goes away, but it's just this understanding of why even bother reasoning with these people? Now, it is important to point out the hypocrisy for everyone else because there's a great deal of misinformation, actually disinformation, involving these protests. As we've given you in previous stories, we've given you statistics. Right-wing extremism in this country is more of a threat when it comes to domestic terror. And we got to keep giving people that information in order to combat the disinformation that we're hearing from the Trump administration and from other right-wingers. Trump, by the way, also had seen the interview on Vice and immediately tweeted after, "Why aren't the Portland police arresting the cold-blooded killer of Aaron J. Danielson? Do your job and do it fast. Everybody knows who this thug is. No wonder Portland is going to hell." So to your point, Cenk, and by the way, he was obviously shortly killed by cops after that. But I bring that up because it goes to your point, Cenk. We saw the type of defensive commentary Trump provided for Kyle Rittenhouse, essentially talking about how he was defending his life. But when it comes to someone on the left, someone who identifies with the protesters, well, he's a cold-blooded murderer, and why doesn't the FBI do its job and get him arrested immediately? So that's what we're dealing with. There's one more video, by the way, from his interview that I'd like to go to, so let's take a quick look at that.
It was a free-for-all, and the police were letting it happen.
Right after it happened, what did you panic? Did you run?
Well, honestly, Those are a bit of details I probably don't want to get into, other than just simply saying that, you know, I realized what had happened. I was confident that I did not hit anyone innocent, and I made my exit.
You okay? Jay. Jay.
And just to reiterate, you feel that it was totally justified.
Totally justified. Had I not acted, I am confident that my friend and I'm sure I would have been killed, because I wasn't going to stand there and let something happen. What they've done is they're trying to make it look like we're all terrorists, and they're trying to make me look like a murderer.
And look, the part of that video that I definitely agree with, and we've seen it in multiple cases, not just in Portland, is that the police seem to allow some of this chaos to happen. We saw in the case of Kenosha, Wisconsin, the cops were very friendly to the armed militia members who were there, including Kyle Rittenhouse. They passed bottles of water to them, literally said, you could hear it in the video, "We appreciate you guys, we really do." So I think that perspective is important and isn't portrayed accurately enough in the way it's reported elsewhere. But I also want to be fair and note that, you know, I'm suspicious of Reinell's side of the story, and he has, as Cenk alluded to earlier, promoted the use of violence. Sometimes he would say, no, violence isn't the way, but other times he seemed to be more open to using violence as a way to combat you know, Trump-fueled fascism in the country. And so, and he has some stuff in his criminal record that makes me wonder. So we got to give you the full facts. You know, it is what it is.
So, all right, look, first of all, in a sense, you're right. Like, I grew up naive. I thought the cops were good guys, and partly because I was brainwashed by mainstream media. Every news report is. Growing up, you watch local news. Black guys did something wrong. Cops are amazing heroes who shot black people. Cops are always telling the truth. Always telling the truth. They're angels. They risk their lives for us. When not really too often. I mean, they just shoot at any threat at all. But that's not what we were told. We were told growing up, cops are the greatest things on earth, right? When you find out, it turns out no, whether it's Kenosha, Wisconsin, or Portland, or New York, where we're going to show you later in the show, cops let a guy who runs over protesters. They help him in the beginning, they help him afterwards, etc. It turns out no, the culture of policing, is every cop fascist? Of course not, right? But is the culture of policing pro-fascism? Absolutely. In this country, unfortunately, it is. So when you realize that, not only now, but in retrospect, I didn't know all of our lives were in danger because the police aren't actually on the side of all the citizens. And I don't think 90%, 95% of this country realizes that. And so if you're a left-wing activist and you want to yell at me and say, Jake, you should have known earlier, okay, fair enough. But you have to understand, the people you know aren't the majority of the country. The overwhelming majority of the country has been brainwashed by the media into thinking that cops are angels that walk on earth here, or maybe walk on clouds. And they always tell the truth, and they're just totally neutral and just trying to protect you. When in reality, the history of policing in this country is beat up and assault and abuse and oftentimes kill minorities, and always be against the left wing, crush the left wing at every turn. So they are right wing by their training and culture. So it shouldn't be. So now when we see with our own eyes, because there's cameras everywhere, yeah, okay, now I'm freaked out. Because, I mean, if you have a fascist leader like Donald Trump and he gives them permission to start murdering people in the streets, or covering up for the murders of people, or if a left-winger ever does anything, including self-defense, just shoot him dead, who cares? Well, that's a scary place to live, man. It's a super scary place to live. And so that's where we are. Now, in terms of Trump, you know, we all know it. It's fascism defined. Oh, somebody had a skateboard, self-defense, kill anyone you like, as long as you're on my side. Oh, you're not on my side. Somebody was going to stab you or your friend, you monster terrorist. Cops, why haven't you murdered him yet? Cops, get in there and murder him. This is U.S. Marshals. They're federal forces. So there's the president telling them, you better go take that guy out. And, shortly thereafter, they go and take the guy out. So that's how fascism works. Now, back to Reinhold. I want to be super clear about this. Here's quotes from him. He said, every revolution needs people that are willing and ready to fight. I'm 100% Antifa all the way. So he did say it. I'm willing to fight for my brothers and sisters, even if some of them are too ignorant to realize what Antifa truly stands for. We do not want violence, but we will not run from it either. So he says both sides, and I don't care if he calls himself Antifa. I don't care about the label. I like this stupid media, like, oh, Antifa. Oh my God, Antifa. Trump said they're terrorists, so I'm going to treat them as terrorists. No, you're an idiot if you think that. In this case, though, you see what happened. He said, if the police continue to pick on and beat up innocent citizens that are peacefully voicing their objections, it must be met with equal force. Don't do that. No, you're not going to meet it with equal force. You're going to potentially kill someone, and then you're almost certainly going to get killed. It's a really dumb idea has happened here. He says, we truly have an opportunity right now to fix everything. It will be fight like no other. It will be war, and like all wars, there will be casualties. So that is wrong, guys. Do not do that. Do not bring guns to things. Don't think that you're going to outforce them. That's an idiotic way of thinking. And so, look, MLK and Gandhi did nonviolence, and it worked. And it wasn't just because they were giants as moral figures. It was also because they were smart and knew that they were outgunned. There was no way in the world Gandhi was going to outgun the British Empire. And he knew that, and he said that. Same thing with King. So if you think that a couple of left-wing guys are going to outgun the entire police in this country, you're an idiot. No, civil disobedience works. That requires even more courage. But if you're worried that the right wing and the fascists run this country, for the moment being, yes, you're right, they do.
All right, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we have two different stories involving right-wing radicals attacking peaceful protesters, and in some of these cases, getting away with it. So we'll be right back.
Can you name the representative of your district?
The representative of my district? Oof.
I have no idea.
I actually don't know who the representative of my district is.
Do you know what the corporate tax rate is?
I think it's pretty high. I should know this.
Like maybe between 20-25%. I don't know.
How many amendments are in the U.S. Constitution?
Oh, no.
This brings me back to grade school.
I should know this because I was a history major, but I do not remember.
I don't know that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no clue.
Nope. I don't know the answer to that one.
You don't know? I didn't know. It's time to change that. We live in the best country in the world. We live in the most powerful country in the world. We love our American freedom, but only half of us take part in the political process. Only half of us vote. We don't fulfill our duties as U.S. citizens to make this country a better place. It's time that we use our voices as a team, as a country, to become better. We will stand up. We will be empowered. We will stay educated and informed about politics every single day because it's our responsibility. And Politiscope just made it easy for you. So join me, join us, and let's be Americans.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for that to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse it and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're going to do both. We're going to fight Trump and we're going to fight the establishment. It is not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
ShopTYT.com has new shirts like this one. And you're thinking, Cenk, what is that one? I can't see it other than the black. Yes, so I'll show it to you. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. Yes! Now, you were practicing social distancing. This is over video. But overall, you get it. ShopTYT.com. All right, back on Young Turks. Let me read some comments from our members. Tui Seratops, sorry, I'm sure I mangled that. It says, would a hero cancel his HBO Go and Netflix subscription and upgrade his TYT account from insider to producer? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. That hero also canceled the Netflix subscription he was paying for his teenage sister, though.
Let's move on before I say something that's going to get you upset.
Okay. No, I love you. TYT.com/join and TYT.com/upgrade. Okay, so a girl linked writes in, he knew he was going to be killed. That's why he did the interview. He is clearly not under any illusions that the cops do the right thing. I hear you, but in a situation like that, please turn yourself in and hands up with a lawyer to the precinct, okay? You don't take any chances. Mondo Libre says, at least the man got to speak before he was permanently silenced. Leroy Not Jenkins says, Cenk is so right about how local news is so pro-cop. The propaganda they used made me think that I had to be one of the good black people. Glad I had enough guidance from my parents. That actually shook me a little bit, Leroy. Thank you for writing in with that. I appreciate it. All right, new Young Turks members on YouTube that just happened. Seb, Mickey Nyland, Gora Chudhuri, William Lobato, and Dwayne Jackson. Love you guys. And the last one's from Twitch. Now I'm on La Vida resub for their fourth month with Prime. And I love the quote. The quote is, 4 months of giving TYT Bezos' money. Because if you have an Amazon Prime account, they actually give us money, but it doesn't cost you anything to be a subscriber on Twitch. So check that out, and we love it and appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. And please don't forget TYT.com/go. That powers us and allows us to give you progressive messaging at like a fraction of what the right-wing billionaires pay their idiot hosts for propaganda. And they serve those billionaires. We serve you guys. TYT.com/go. All right, and if you share the stream, we love you, and it helps a lot. Go ahead, Anna.
All right, so the right wing has been obsessing about left-wing terrorism in the country, even though statistics do not bear that out. In fact, right-wing extremism continues to be a national security threat, one that Donald Trump has completely ignored, and we're seeing the consequences of that. So some of the more recent cases involve 2 men in Missouri who were arrested because they were planning on going to Kenosha, Wisconsin, in order to carry out acts of violence, to loot. According to federal agents who had been tailing them, they were arrested in Pleasant Prairie. So they made their way to Wisconsin after receiving a tip. They were coming to Kenosha to possibly loot and pick people off. Now, here's the scary part. The FBI tracked Michael Carmo and Cody Smith to the La Quinta Hotel in Pleasant Prairie on September 1st. Investigators said they searched the men's vehicle and hotel room, where FBI agents recovered an AR-15 assault rifle, a 500 AB 12-gauge shotgun, 2 handguns, a silencer, ammunition, body armor, a drone, and other materials. Now, both men have pretty serious criminal records, and they had no business, no right to own those weapons. So they had possession of those weapons illegally. Carmo and Smith told agents they, quote, wanted to see proof of the rioting and were planning to drive to Portland, Oregon next, saying they were willing to take action if police were defunded. And I think based on the weapons that were found, we know what they mean when they say take action. There are other cases of right-wing radicals carrying out acts of violence recently. But before I get to that, Cenk, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. So if you're wondering, hey, that's weird, this is the first time I'm hearing this story, well, there's a good reason for that. So if a Black Lives Matter protester, let alone leader, or someone from Antifa had loaded up a whole heap of weapons and said they were going to loot and murder people, it would be the largest story in America. And you all know that. There's not a single person who disputes that. Every right-winger was screaming from the rooftops. Trump and Fox News was screaming from the rooftops. Oh, we knew it! The Black Lives Matter people are looters, and look at all the weapons they have. Terrorists! If it's Antifa, it might even be worse. They're right-wingers. Everybody's like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. So why? Well, it's normal on 2 fronts. One, I don't blame them because the right-wingers do it all the time. So it just gets exhausting. There's nonstop right-wing terrorism in this country. So that's Tuesday. A right-winger was going to murder people, had untold weapons. And by the way, they were going to steal things. Okay. But the second reason is the more devastating one. It's because it's a matter of privilege. They think, oh yeah, I mean, the right-wing guys are patriots. And so they were going to defend the robbery. Whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter. The right wing can do whatever they want, but if anyone from the left wing ever does anything, terrorist! Oh my God, time to send in the tanks. So look, you can see it with your own eyes. There is no dispute. And in this case, think about it. So you all get Trump's hypocrisy, and at this point, I think you all get the police hypocrisy. But in this case, this is just about the media. The media thinks if the left wing does something wrong, it's terrible and unconscionable and they might be terrorists. If the right wing does something that was going to be a terrorist act and looting, they think that's not that big a story.
No, I think it's actually worse than that. Because it's the same virus that we've experienced in different contexts, right? From what I've seen in the media, without, considering the outliers and maybe partisan media, like I don't consider Fox News. I'm just thinking about like legacy media outlets, corporate media. They're still obsessed with false equivalencies. They're still obsessed with confusing neutrality with objectivity. And I think it's important. Look, I'm not saying that if someone on the left carries out an act of violence, they should excuse it or make excuses for it. Absolutely not, right? What I'm arguing, though, is don't pretend as if left-wing terrorism is as much of a threat in this country as right-wing extremism, because we see it in FBI reporting. We see it in other studies, one of which I'm about to mention in the context of this story in just a minute. right-wing extremism is a problem. And when they draw this false equivalency, they needlessly create all this hostility and they antagonize the left. When you look at the numbers, when you look at these protests, the vast majority of them are peaceful. Okay, that doesn't mean there aren't ever instances of violence breaking out, but you also have to study those instances of violence and what escalated to that point, right? So, and by the way, I just gave you some anecdotal evidence. 2 men from Missouri who just got arrested because they were planning on going to Kenosha to carry out acts of violence. That's what those weapons were for. Well, now let's move on to another case, this time Times Square. So there were multiple videos that went viral recently on social media showing a vehicle driving through a group of protesters. This is in Times Square. Luckily, no one was seriously injured. There were a few minor injuries. The video I'm about to show you is graphic, but it gives you a sense of what pro-Trump counter-protesters engage in when they show up to these Black Lives Matter demonstrations. So the suspects in that vehicle, I just want to note, did go to the police. They were questioned and they were released with no charges. Let me give you the details on what we know so far. The vehicle's
and I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in. I want you to give the details in a second. But I don't want any cop ever claiming that a car is a deadly weapon anymore. So if the people that are involved are the victims are right wing, or oh my God forbid, if the victims are cops, or anybody just drives near a cop, they're like, deadly weapon, I had to murder him, I shot him in the head, right? No, you don't have that excuse anymore. You just told me it's not a deadly weapon. You just told me it's no big deal to run over people with your car. No big deal at all. As you're about to find out, it's that's because it's their right-wing buddies. And the right-wing buddies try to murder left-wingers. So they're like, oh, car's no longer a deadly weapon. Oh, you come anywhere near a cop, we'll shoot you in the head and claim it's a deadly weapon in your car, whether it's a skateboard or a car. The hypocrisy is unreal. So we'll give you the details on how the cops love these guys in a second.
So here's what we know about the perpetrators, the people who were in the vehicle. There were several people in the vehicle, and apparently the vehicle's license plate matches that of another car frequently shared on social media by Hakeem Gibson, a pro-NYPD activist who currently runs a law enforcement support page. The Ford Taurus appears to be a former police car purchased from a police auction. According to Facebook post, Gibson recently outfitted the car with a push bumper and spotlight, joking online that other drivers had often mistaken him for a police officer. Now, one of the other people in the car is a transgender pro-Trump activist who has gotten in trouble several times for defacing Black Lives Matter murals. And there's one of them in Manhattan. There's another one in Brooklyn. Juliet Germanata is her name, a pro-Trump activist, confirmed that she was in the vehicle with 5 other counter-protesters when the driver floored it through the crowd of Black Lives Matter marchers. She said she felt threatened by the protesters and feared for her life, denying reports from eyewitnesses that the driver was the aggressor in the situation. Look, there are multiple videos of what happened from multiple angles. You guys just saw one of them. Were the protesters threatening anyone's life in that video you just saw? I mean, it's just, and what amazes me is they go and talk to the cops, and the cops are like, oh, you felt threatened? Of course you did. Yeah, totally fine. No charges. You're free to go. And the NYPD is telling the press that, yeah, we're still investigating it. Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're really looking to, make sure justice is served in that case where someone could have easily died by getting run over.
Yeah, so earlier you see the cops giving these guys an escort, right? Police escort. Well, and they're super friendly with them. Earlier, as in 10 seconds earlier. Okay, so here it is, right? So, oh, those are the cops. Hey, yeah, hey. And they're protecting them from other people who are just filming, right? Oh, my God. A left-winger has a camera That seems super dangerous. Let's protect our right-wing friends. Now, look at the car. The cops let him go, okay? So they're going to the thing. So it's not like the car was surrounded by protesters. No, you just saw the beginning of that video, and the first video we showed you was the tail end. They come up to the protesters, and boom, they floor, okay? So no provocation, anything. The cops look at it, they're like, oh, yeah, those guys are our buddies that we just escorted and protected. Oh, they just ran over some protesters. Oh, great, no problem. Or did they chase them? No, of course not. And then the guys come in, and the cops talk to them. They go, oh, you try to kill protesters? Great, man. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And so now they let him go, totally go, and they say nothing happened, nothing wrong. And then they say, oh, it was on camera. Okay, we're still investigating, okay? And it depends. If there's enough political pressure and we're worried one of us might get fired, we'll do some trappings of pretending to care. And when you're not looking, we'll let him go anyway. But for now, no one's been arrested. It's clear as day. They have video. What do you imagine if they had video of a left-winger or a black person, same exact situation, that runs over cops? Do you think they'd still be? No, hold on. Let me get this right. Do you think they'd still be investigating? Or do you think they would have already gone to that person's house and shot them dead? Okay, come on, keep it.
Yeah, we know what the answer is. Well, because look, we're talking about the NYPD, where in the beginning of the civil unrest in this country, we had multiple examples of them running over protesters themselves. They see the protesters as their opponents, their political enemies. That's the reason why they're so friendly to the counter protesters, even as they carry out acts of violence and terror. That's what's going on. That's what we're seeing. Again, like we saw NYPD SUVs run over a crowd of protesters. Luckily, no one died in that instance, but it's just, they did it themselves, Cenk. They don't care. And so we gave you some anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence doesn't mean anything. What matters is, if you look at the bigger picture, what is the trend? And the trend is that right-wing radicals pose the biggest threat to people's safety. Here's another study that looked into this. It's a report by the nonprofit Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. They concluded that an escalation in the government response to protests and a sharp uptick in extremist activity means the United States faces a growing risk of political violence and instability ahead of the 2020 election. So their worries, their concerns are about how the Trump administration escalates violence and how right-wing extremism poses a threat, not just now, but as we get closer to the general election. And then they looked at the Black Lives Matter movement overall to see if there's any truth to this narrative we've been hearing about looting and violence and how dangerous they are. Here's what they found. About 93% of the racial justice protests that swept the United States this summer remain peaceful and non-destructive. So they looked at looting as well. 93%.
Okay, so guys, this part's super important because first of all, even among the 7%, did they include the stores being burned down? Of course they did, right? And so that's part of that 7% where there was violence. But a lot of the 7% was when counter-protesters showed up and began violence. And and even more of it was when cops showed up and started attacking the protesters. And so now they count both sides. So when left wing starts it, or the protesters start it, or they do violence, they count that. When the police then cause the violence to begin, they count that. They don't care who started it. They count, but they do note who started it, right? To the best of their ability. And the majority of it is police or counter protesters starting it. So now I'm only telling you that in the context of, so it's even a smaller number than 7%. So the overwhelming majority of the protests are totally peaceful. So now, when you turn on the news, is that the impression that you get? Now, I know why part of why they do it. Burning buildings are amazing footage, and everybody gets scared, and then they get glued to their TV. And it's catnip for media. They just, they love it so much, right? And they show it 24/7. But when the media shows a couple of percentage points, like, hey, that happens 2-3% of the time, but they show it 24/7, it makes it look like it happens 100% of the time. So the impression left for the audience and for the American people is, oh my God, these protesters are constantly burning things down, and they're all rioters and looters, etc. And then the Trump and the Fox News come in and go, oh, the poor right wing. When they go in there and shoot people in the head, they're just doing self-defense. I mean, you saw the burning buildings. And so that's how propaganda works, and the whole country is misled, honestly, mainly by corporate media, into thinking that left wing and minorities are the agitators, the aggressors, and are mostly violent, when in fact, the numbers show you it's the exact opposite.
Got to take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about Donald Trump and how he has been a juvenile baby when it comes to criticizing others and then later denying it.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? And I go, what are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps f***ing cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong! I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the f***? You said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. There's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not f***ing. Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us. This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Hey, man.
Kingsley.
See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just going to ask you about getting high. Snoogans? Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join, and free trial. I'm old school with the old folks.
Good
John,
night.
come back!
Electric cars are awesome, but they aren't the best tool for every job. You can't park them on the edge of the sidewalk while you run into the store for a few things. On top of that, an electric car is just financially out of reach for many people. That's where Zoom electric scooters come in. When I say electric scooter, I'm talking about small motorcycles with space in front of you to put your feet. The Zoom scooter has a range of 60 miles, offers a smooth ride up to 40 miles per hour, and can be charged from any electrical outlet. Start saving on gas while reducing your carbon footprint. To find out more, go to tyt.com/Zoom. Enter the code TYT50 to get an additional discount.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's going to be more impressive than that. Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope.
Voting is a critical part of the democratic process, and right now it's under attack in this country. There are currently very powerful forces looking to undermine your right to vote, especially for the poor and minority voters. If for no other reason than that, we have got to push back against that and register to vote. Make sure that your voice is heard, that they are not allowed to suppress the vote. We fight back, and when we do, we win together. Register and have your voice heard in November.
Our community faces a never-before-seen public health and economic crisis. Businesses are calling Levin Papantonio with their legal questions regarding COVID-19. You've asked and we've answered. If you're a business owner and have suffered financial loss or closure from COVID-19 and have questions regarding your insurance policy, call us for a free consultation. Some policies may provide coverage for lost profits and earnings. Stay safe, and together we'll get through this.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Anna with you guys. Member comments. Lisa Payton says, I absolutely love you guys and being a new member. Well, Lisa, we love you back. And since we love you guys, we do extra shows for you. So Bernie Bash, that's a good thing, birthday bash, is on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And we already told you, we're going to tell you his life story, his amazing stories, his accomplishments, etc., and where it leads the progressive movement. But today, I told you in the beginning of the show, and in case you weren't here, we're going to have a shocking surprise guest. A shocking surprise guest. I'm not kidding. You will actually be genuinely surprised. Very surprised. So check that out. It's going to be awesome. We also have Common Room tonight for you guys on Twitch. Twitch.tv/TYT. Brett and John are on there. You guys are going to love that. It's couples night. It's really cute. Check it out. I'm just going to read two more things. Cousin Vinny says, it's because the right wing has taken full ownership of the Second Amendment. If a right winger has a gun, they're just being free Americans. If a left winger has guns, they must be malicious and planning violence. And yes, the media helps perpetuate that. So it's a great point as usual. I wish I could read all your points, guys. Christopher Barron just became a member on YouTube. Thank you, Christopher. We appreciate it. And the last one's just fun. Stephanie Carlton on YouTube Super Chat says, can I get a shout out for my mama's birthday tomorrow? Her name is Denise. We love your show and watch it daily. Denise, happy birthday!
Yay, Denise!
All right, that's always fun. All right, guys. You make the show possible and do something that's free and really easy. Share the stream whenever you can, okay? And tyt.com/join to join. Thank you. All right, what's next?
Donald Trump is vehemently denying allegations made in a shocking Atlantic piece, which claims that Trump refused to visit a U.S. military cemetery near Paris in 2018 because the fallen soldiers were, in his words, losers and suckers. Now, I say it was a shocking piece, but to be honest with you, not so shocking when you consider all the different times he transparently, brazenly said terrible things about members of our military who happen to disagree with him politically. But here he is denying it, and then I'll give you what the facts are.
To think that I would make statements negative to our military and our fallen heroes when nobody's done what I've done with the budgets, with the military budgets, with getting pay raises for our military. It is a disgraceful situation by a magazine that's a terrible magazine. I don't read it. I disagreed with John McCain, but I still respected him. And I had to approve his funeral as president. We lowered the flags. I had to approve that. Nobody else, I had to approve it. When you think, and I'm just thinking back, I had to approve either Air Force One or a military plane to go to Arizona to pick up his casket. And I approved it immediately.
So let's take a look at a Trump tweet from 2015, because there's always a tweet. This is from July 18th, 2015, where Trump referred to John McCain as a loser. He tweeted an article about himself calling John McCain a loser. So he was bragging about it. Also, when McCain died in 2018, Trump refused to lower the White House flag back to half staff, even though it's become customary for presidents to sign a proclamation calling for the flag to remain at half staff for members of Congress until the day of interment. And then one other piece of evidence to kind of refute Trump's narrative in that video. Take a look.
And I said, somebody should run against John McCain, who has been, you know, in my opinion, not so hot. And I supported him. I supported him for president. I raised $1 million for him. It's a lot of money. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, you know, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that, because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
That was from a 2015 event in Iowa. Cenk.
So I don't know how to talk to Trump supporters anymore. That's why I say, like, I'm done with them in my personal life and everywhere else, because the guy's a ridiculous liar. Doesn't he know that he tweeted out John McCain's a loser? Doesn't he know he said on tape? I mean, that was a massive moment. You guys all remember when he said, I prefer people who weren't captured. But earlier he said, I don't like losers, referring to John McCain. So why did he come out yesterday and say, no, I never called him a loser? He's just unbelievable. He's unbelievable. And so if you say, hey, you know what? I love people who are liars. Okay, I mean, do you, boo? Okay. And look, again, I blame the media, and because so many politicians lie and they never call it out. They enabled politicians' lies for decades. So eventually you got one that's so over the top that even they had to be like, whoa. And remember, you guys remember, it took them like a couple of years before they finally gathered up the nerve to say, well, what Donald Trump said there was not correct. And they're like, is it okay? Is it okay? Is it okay?
I'm forgetting the name of the CNN analyst who finally just said it and then went on this 3-minute rant fact-checking Trump. He was fact-checking Trump's RNC speech, but he started that 3-minute rant by saying Trump lied. He's a liar. And I was like, is this CNN? What's going on? And so, yeah, you're right, Cenk. Like, the fact that that excited me because it's so rare, I think, means something. And we'll get you the name of the person I'm talking about because he deserves all the credit. I'm just kind of blanking right now. But look, I actually think with this particular story and a few others, the media has done a decent job. So, for instance, Business Insider had a very lengthy list highlighting all the different times Donald Trump attacked members of the military, right? And fallen soldiers. So I want to read a few of them right now. In fact, as you guys can probably remember, in July of 2016, Trump attacked the family of Captain Humayun Khan, a slain soldier, someone who died fighting for the country, dismissing a speech his father, Kaiser Khan, made because he said Khan's mother hadn't been allowed to speak. The family said she had not spoken because she was too emotional to talk about her son's death. And he just kept going after that family. It was honestly disgusting. In October of 2017, Trump forgot the name of slain U.S. Army Sergeant LaDavid Johnson while he was on the phone with his widow. Johnson was killed in an ambush in Niger while in active service. Maisha Johnson said the call with Trump made her cry and that Trump told her that her husband knew what he had signed up for. In November of 2018, Fox News's Chris Wallace asked Trump about his thoughts on retired Admiral William McRaven, a former Navy SEAL who was behind the mission that killed Osama bin Laden. He interrupted Wallace and said, "Hillary Clinton fan." When Wallace continued, Trump did too. "Excuse me, Hillary Clinton fan." Trump went on to repeat that McRaven supported Clinton, which, by the way, he hadn't, as well as former President Barack Obama, and said, frankly, wouldn't it have been nice if we got Osama bin Laden a lot sooner than that? I mean, there's so many more examples, Cenk, but I mean, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to some of them. And by the way, Daniel Dale is the CNN reporter that I was referring to earlier. Go ahead.
So we've seen him call the generals losers thousands of times. And so I guess people are shocked that he would go and call the fallen soldiers losers as well, and not just stop at generals or veterans or captured soldiers. But is it really shocking at all? He calls everybody losers. I mean, in his denial, he called the military people who were the sources for this story lowlifes and liars. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to deny that you'd ever call anybody in the military losers, you shouldn't then turn around in your denial and call them lowlifes and liars. So, and look, Atlantic broke the story with 4 sources. Then Washington Post backed it up with 3 sources, and then Associated Press also found sources all saying the same thing. He said it.
I actually want to read a few excerpts from the Washington Post piece. Again, these aren't the same sources. These are additional sources who also spoke to the Washington Post about, their experience with Trump and what he had to say about fallen soldiers. In one account, the president told senior advisors that he didn't understand why the U.S. government placed such a high value on finding, this is so disgusting, finding soldiers missing in action because they had performed poorly and gotten caught and deserved what they got, according to a person familiar with the discussion. Okay, that part of the story, like, I don't know, all of it is gross, but that part hit me the hardest because he just doesn't value people's lives. And think about losing a family member that way and knowing that the president of the United States does not care to find their bodies. Trump believed people who served in the Vietnam War must be losers because they hadn't gotten out of it, according to a person familiar with the comments. Trump also complained bitterly to then Chief of Staff John Kelly that he didn't understand why Kelly and others in the military treated McCain, who had been imprisoned and tortured during the Vietnam War, with such reverence. Isn't he kind of a loser? Trump asked, according to a person familiar with Trump's comments.
So, look, Donald Trump says this is outrageous. It's anonymous sources. Donald Trump also just a couple of days ago said that there was a plane full of thugs who were going to come and disturb his acceptance speech and cause violence. And when asked, who told you that? He said, I can't tell you. Basically, it's anonymous. Mm-hmm. So wait, I'm supposed to believe your anonymous source of trust me, it's a guy you would know, trust me. But we're not supposed to believe now. It looks like about a half a dozen military sources that talk to 3 different publications, all saying the same thing and all saying things that are very similar to what you've said before. And by the way, yesterday on the show, before the Washington Post and the Associated Press stories came out, I said, I guarantee you that he thinks that they're suckers because he got out of Vietnam with a fake doctor's note because his daddy bought him one. And he thinks they're suckers for not being able to get out of the war like his spoiled ass. And it turns out that's exactly what he said, according to the military sources that heard him say it.
Yeah. And remember, when sources are anonymous to the general public, that doesn't mean that they're anonymous to the reporters. Reporters have to vet their anonymous sources and corroborate what they're saying. So maybe they're anonymous to us, but they're not anonymous to the reporters. All right, postgame is next. You don't want to miss it. We have a banana story involving Democratic strategists. See you there.
Can you name the representative of your district?
The representative of my district, oof.
I have no idea.
I actually don't know who the representative of my district is.
Do you know what the corporate tax rate is?
I think it's pretty high. I should know this.
Like in between 20, 25%. I don't know.
How many amendments are in the U.S. Constitution?
Oh, no.
This brings me back to grade school.
I should know this because I was a history major, but I do not remember.
I don't know that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no clue.
Nope. I don't know the answer to that one.
You don't know? I didn't know. It's time to change that. We live in the best country in the world. We live in the most powerful country in the world. We love our American freedom, but only half of us take part in the political process. Only half of us vote. We don't fulfill our duties as U.S. citizens to make this country a better place. It's time that we use our voices as a team, as a country, to become better. We will stand up. We will be empowered. We will stay educated and informed about politics every single day because it's our responsibility. And Politiscope just made it easy for you. So join me, join us, and let's be Americans.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for that to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're going to do both. We're going to fight Trump and we're going to fight the establishment. It is not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
ShopTYT.com has new shirts like this one. And you're thinking, Cenk, what is that one? I can't see it other than the black. Yes, so I'll show it to you. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. Yes! Now, you were practicing social distancing. This is over video. But overall, you get it. ShopTYT.com. All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna. We have breaking news. You guys are going to love it. And we have a lot of stories for you guys. Let me start with the breaking news. All right, let me get my screen right here. Okay. So the Atlantic originally broke the story of how Donald Trump apparently called veterans and fallen soldiers suckers and losers. He has furiously denied it, and of course, Fox News jumped in the morning with their Bert and Ernie and expressing skepticism about the report. And now, since then, Washington Post has confirmed the story with several military sources of their own saying, yes, he said it. And then the Associated Press also confirmed the story with also military sources saying, yes, he said it. Greg Gutfeld on Fox News said, it's a hoax. You know, I can't believe it. People can't see it. It's an obvious hoax. Now, here's the breaking news. Jennifer Griffin, Fox News correspondent, has confirmed the story. So she said, I've spoken with 2 senior U.S. officials who were on the trip to France who confirmed to me key details in the Atlantic article and the quotes attributed to the president. That is Fox News confirming, yes, the president called fallen soldiers suckers and losers. So there's more devastating details. So the Fox News correspondent continues. The president would say about American veterans, what's in it for them? They don't make any money. Wow. Now, look, I know what a terrible guy Donald Trump is, and I'm not surprised that he would say something like that, and he thinks that way. But guys, I mean, if you're a veteran and you supported this guy, he thinks you're an idiot. He's like, you didn't even make any money off the war. What, did you do it for patriotism? And then you died or you were captured? What a sucker. That's what he thinks of you. Here's now countless military sources telling everyone, including Fox News, he definitely said it. And apparently he said it on several occasions. Now, remember, he was supposed to go to 2 cemeteries there when he was in Europe in that trip in France. And this story partly originated from him not going to one of the cemeteries of our fallen soldiers. And here's another quote from a Fox News source. He apparently said, "Why do I have to do 2? And Griffin from Fox News continues, his staff explained he could cancel, but he was warned they, the press, are going to kill you for this. The president was mad as a hornet when they did, according to this source." So now remember, the Atlantic's sources said one of the things he was concerned about was his hair. Look, guys, we've lost over 180,000 Americans because Donald Trump thought he doesn't look good in a mask. So are you surprised that it was his vanity that, oh, now I got to go deal with fallen soldiers and it might mess up my hair? And I have a bald spot that I do this weird comb over for, and people might see my bald spot. Who cares about fallen soldiers? They're losers anyway. They're suckers who didn't even make any money off of it. That's how despicable this guy is. It's not me saying it. It's Fox News confirming it. Okay, so there's more. By the way, before I get to more from Fox News, Washington Post also confirmed what I speculated on yesterday when we saw the Atlantic story. I said, look, he thinks they're suckers because they couldn't get out of the war. And his dad paid for a doctor to make up a thing about bone spurs, and he thinks that's what savvy people do. They have a dad who gives them $400 million, and then they cheat their way out of wars. And the Washington Post says there are military officials who confirm that Donald Trump thought if you can't get out of a war like Vietnam, you're a sucker.
And it's so, of course, his comments about fallen soldiers and people who went to Vietnam, people who died in Vietnam, all of it is gross. But if you take a step back and think about his mindset and what he just thinks about people who don't cheat, who don't lie, who don't game the system, if you're following the rules, if you're one of the unfortunate people who was drafted in that war in Vietnam, and you went, you did what you were supposed to, he thinks you're a loser, you're a sucker. That's the same thing he thinks about anyone who plays by the rules, anyone who doesn't cheat, anyone who isn't a thief and a criminal like Donald Trump. He considers them to be losers and suckers. Like, it's not just about what he thinks about the military. It's about what he thinks of humanity and how people are supposed to function in this country. He loves criminality. He loves the cheating. He supports it. And he thinks that if you don't engage in it, if you're not constantly thinking of ways to screw other people over, well, then you're a loser and a sucker. And he's been screwing over the American people since he came into power. It's amazing. Yeah.
So there's one more devastating quote from Fox News. But before I get to that, Anna, you're absolutely right. He's a natural-born con man, and he thinks if you're not running a con, you're not doing it right. But guys, who do you think he thinks is the biggest sucker? Anyone who votes for him. He thinks these idiots, they're not even getting rich off of it. I'm getting rich off of it, and these suckers keep voting for me, even though I brazenly lie. I do things against their interests. I gave all the money to who? To the rich. That's the only thing I did was pass a $2 trillion tax cut that went almost all to the rich. Bunch of suckers keep voting for me. That's what he thinks. Now, one more devastating one. Jennifer Griffin, again, Fox News correspondent, says, by the way, her sources are not the military sources from the other papers. They're 2 former senior administration officials. Okay, so not random leftover people from Obama Trump said maybe, there's some Obama people left over. No, senior Trump administration officials. And here's the last part of the story. Regarding the president's July 4th military parade planning, during a planning session at the White House, after seeing the Bastille Day parade in 2017, President Trump said regarding the inclusion of wounded guys, quote, "That's not a good look. Americans don't like that." Wow.
Oh,
So
God, he's such a bad guy.
he's literally the worst of us. We elected the worst of us, and he's up for election again. He thinks you're an idiot and a sucker if you ever went and fought for this country, and if you vote for him, if you do any of these things. And he's like, yes, suckers, vote for me again. Oh, and if you were wounded in battle, I don't like to look at you. It's uncomfortable. God, he's such a disgusting human being.
How do you not hear those comments or read those comments and not think about people who lost their family members in war? Like people who are also going to read these comments and see these comments and just know that the most powerful person in this country, if not the world, just does not value their lives at all and actively like despises them and thinks less of them. Yeah.
Look, it's a black mark on this country that we ever elected a monster like this. That there were enough people in the country who voted for this guy in the first place. But 2016, people were super mad at the establishment and desperately want to change. 2020, we all know who Donald Trump is. There's no excuses left. And even Fox News now confirms what a monster he is. So if you still vote for him now, it isn't because you're tired of the establishment. It isn't because you didn't know. Now you know. So let's see what happens in this election.
Jeez. All right. Well, it's hard to follow that story, but there is other news. So let's give you guys an update on COVID and what is likely to happen if people stop wearing their masks. So a new report from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation suggests that the coronavirus death toll can double by the beginning of next year if mask use declines. So more than 410,000 people in the U.S. could die from the coronavirus by January 1st, more than doubling the current death toll, which is, by the way, bad enough. A new model often cited by top health officials predicted Friday. So that would mean 224,000 more lives would be lost in the United States over the next 4 months. The model points to declining mask use in some regions from peak usage in early August. Now, look, before we go on, I want to note something that I think is super important. These models are often wrong, right? And when I say they're often wrong, I'm not saying that they overestimate these deaths. One of the models in the early days of COVID predicted that by August, 60,000 Americans would die from this virus. Obviously, the number was much higher than that, much higher than that. So I'm telling you that because you should keep in mind that this could even end up being an underestimate, depending on how much sway Donald Trump has among the general public, right? He's passed around all sorts of disinformation, and that has needlessly led to all these people dying. Do people still trust him? I don't know, but I think that's a huge factor in this. Now, near universal mask use, and this is the good news if people listen, near universal mask use could cut the number of projected additional fatalities by more than half, and that's according to the model from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. The study also declares herd immunity a terrible idea. This is something that's been promoted by a new member of Trump's coronavirus task force. He should be ignored because actual health experts say that herd immunity is a bad idea. So if herd immunity strategy is pursued, meaning no further government intervention is taken from now to January 1st, the death toll could increase to 620,000. The death rate could reach nearly 3,000 people a day by December, an unprecedented number due in part to declining vigilance of the public. Cenk.
Okay, so let's give a lot of context here. So first of all, look, in terms of Donald Trump's incompetence, that jury is in. He said we'd get tired of winning. We're actually tired of dying. We went from first to worst. So right now we're at well over 186,000 dead, leading the whole world in the number of deaths. So in terms of the politics of it, we can't get worse than worst. Like there is no third world country that did anywhere near as bad a job as we did. So, I mean, it doesn't. So I just want you to understand there isn't any political motivation here. It doesn't matter if there's 200,000 dead, 300,000 dead, or 400,000 dead from a political perspective. The only thing that matters is your family members. I don't want them to die. The actual number of people who die is super important. So now, I also don't want you to panic. Like Anna said, the good news is the masks do work. And in fact, I've become much more hopeful about our situation with coronavirus. And so in the beginning, we were super worried that it was on all the surfaces and it lasted for days on the surfaces. We were worried about a great number of things. Now it looks like if you wear the mask indoors and you socially distance outdoors, you're pretty close to covered. It's actually surprisingly good protection. So, and on the jury's also in on herd immunity. So Sweden tried it, and their neighbors, Denmark, Norway, did not. Sweden had 5 to 10 times as many cases and deaths per capita. Don't do herd immunity because the vaccine is coming. There's more good news. The vaccine is likely going to arrive near the end of this year. Now, it's going to take a long time for everybody to have enough of the vaccine and enough distribution to get it to everybody and for people to take it. So if you got a loved one who's older or has immune problems, they're going to be prioritized. First, the doctors and the nurses are going to be prioritized, then the elderly, et cetera, right? But even so, they're probably going to get the vaccine in, the beginning part of next year to the middle of 2021, okay? But still, they're going to get it. So don't do herd immunity before the vaccine comes. It makes no sense. So you can protect yourself and loved ones without panicking if you just wear the mask indoors and in appropriate situations outdoors. So guys, we can get past this if we do things right. The politics is gone already. If you think that masks, you don't need masks, and Donald Trump's a tough guy and Joe Biden's weak because he wears a mask, there's nothing I can do to help you. And I'm not going to convince you to vote for Biden. That ship has sailed, right? So just make sure, for any of you out there that are reasonable, take good precautions, and then we might actually be okay if we can make it to the vaccine. Hang in there.
Yeah. Well, let me reset for this part of the story because it's important. Now, while the jury is in on the effectiveness of wearing masks to prevent the spread of coronavirus, unfortunately, Donald Trump continues to spread disinformation about it and has even resorted to mocking Joe Biden again for wearing a mask. He did this recently during a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Let's watch.
But did you ever see a man that likes a mask as much as him? And then he makes a speech, and he always has it, not always, but a lot of times he has it hanging down. Because you know what? It gives him a feeling of security. If I were a psychiatrist, right? No, I'd say this guy's got some big issues. Hanging down. Hanging down. Congressman, give me your mask. I want to have it hanging from my ear. I don't want to touch your damn mask. Mike, I'll never touch your mask.
So in the same crowded rally, his supporters pretty much got offended when they were asked to wear a mask. Let's take a quick look at what happened.
Event organizers asked people in the crowd to put on a mask, and get this, people in the crowd started booing. We have some video of that. Let's take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, in accordance with New Hampshire Executive Order 63, please wear your masks.
I mean, these Trump supporters, their ignorance defined. So they're trying to protect you. You're outside. That's good. Don't do it inside. I'm glad they're outside, but you're right next to one another. What? All right. But why do they hate masks? Because Trump told them to hate masks. He just told them in the speech, put on a mask, wink. And then he comes on the lectern and he's like, huh, look at this Joe Biden. He has psychological problems. That's why he wears a mask. I mean, we have 186,000 dead Americans from coronavirus. And the guy's joking around. Ha ha, I don't want your mask. I don't want your mask, Mike. I'm such a funny comedian. Did you know that I was a reality show host on TV? That I played a clown on television. And he really thinks that it's weak to wear a mask. And that's why, I mean, I don't know how many tens of thousands of Americans died because they believed Donald Trump, that they were weak or not manly enough if they wore masks.
I mean, let's look at the final graphic, because this is where we're at right now. And I'm sure the numbers are even higher since we grabbed these statistics to share with you. The United States has well over 6 million confirmed coronavirus cases. You're right, Cenk, 186,000 deaths. Just in the last 7 days, 286,198 new confirmed cases. Jeez, I mean, it's amazing, because he takes his own failure, which has cost hundreds of thousands of Americans their own lives, and he owns it and brags about it. It's like, I'm gonna double down. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and mock the people who are doing the right thing.
Yeah, I'm going to mock every doctor in the country, every scientist in the country who tells you to wear a mask to protect you and your family, and especially your parents. And remember when he sent out all those spokespeople to say, no, Donald Trump is now in favor of wearing masks. He's actually the best at wearing masks. He's the best mask wearer there is. He's so strong with masks. And then he comes out and goes, yeah, don't listen to my idiot people who told you to wear a mask. Ha ha, Biden wears a mask. He's not manly enough. Ha 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 ha. That's the monster we have in office, an idiot. And so if you follow him, have at it, Hoss, but you're going to endanger yourself and others.
We have to get to 2 more stories, beginning with one that's devastating, but the last story in this postgame is my favorite. It has to do with very bitter Democrats who supported Joe Kennedy. Okay, but let's get to Breonna Taylor first. Yep. Breonna Taylor was gunned down in her own home by plainclothes cops who had lied to a judge to obtain a no-knock warrant. And we still don't have justice in that case. In fact, the cops who were involved in that remain free. They haven't been criminally charged. But now we have some more evidence that there were inconsistencies between what actually happened that night and what the cops allege. And we know that because all of a sudden it turns out that after being told that the cops don't wear body cameras in Louisville, some of these cops who were there on the scene did in fact have a body cam. One of them did. The other had basically like a body cam, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like holster type thing. With the body cam missing. But let me give you the details on what we know now based on photos from the scene that Vice was able to obtain. Photographs of officers taken from that night clearly show Officer Tony James, one of at least 7 officers present for the raid, wearing a body camera over his right shoulder. At least one other officer photographed, Miles Cosgrove, is wearing a body cam mount, that's the right word for it, on his vest, though no body cam is attached. Cosgrove, along with Sergeant John Mattingly and Brett Hankison, were placed on administrative reassignment later that day for discharging their weapon on the scene. I want to note that only one of those cops has been relieved of duty. The others still have a job, and none of them have been charged criminally. This investigation is ongoing, even though Breonna Taylor was murdered in her own home in mid-March. It's been months. So this contradicts statements by the Louisville Metro Police Department that the officers involved who work narcotics do not wear body cameras. The department has also said there is no body camera footage from the raid. It's unclear, however, if the camera present was turned on during the raid. So I want to show you the two images that prove what Vice is reporting. So here's an image of Tony James, and you can see his body camera on his shoulder. The second image is of Miles Cosgrove, and he has the mount for the body camera without the body camera in it on his shoulder as well. And so a lot of inconsistencies between what we heard from the police department and what the evidence bears out. There are other inconsistencies that I'll get to in a second, but Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, so first of all, want to be clear, those pictures are taken the night of the shooting. So very clearly, the body camera is there. So whether it was turned on is a different question, and it's supposed to be turned on. But I was going to say we'll see more about that, but we might not, because cops are notorious liars, and these cops in particular have already clearly proven in how they lied about this incident, including on this specific issue. I want to say something that almost nobody ever points out. So you want these cops fired. Obviously, I agree. But the person who should be fired first is their manager. Whoever sent them to do a no-knock warrant after they already had the suspect in custody with no evidence, the person who authorized lying about the warrant because they said, oh, somebody at the Postal Service told us she's getting packages. People at the Postal Service said, confirmed, no one said that at the Postal Service. So they lied to a judge. So the people who managed these cops and trained these cops and sent them on this mission, they should be fired first. And understand how the system works and why the cops who did the shooting don't get fired. Because if the manager fires the cops, they go, wait a minute, you told us to do it. And then he's in trouble and he might get fired. So that's why they have a thin blue line. When we screw up and we murder people, remember, we all stick together because we all did it together, and we all declare ourselves not guilty. So now the reason why all of our commentary seems jarring to a lot of Americans, but by the way, that's why we have a lot of folks who are in minority communities who watch us, because to them it's not jarring. They go, yeah, finally somebody in media is saying it. Yeah, that's what we've been saying all along. And so, but for others who are not minorities in this country, our commentary seems jarring because your whole life, everyone in the media told you the cops always tell the truth and you should trust the cops. Now, the reality is, as we've shown you in almost every story we've covered, no, you should assume the cops are lying because that's what the evidence reveals as the story goes forward. And guys, think about it. Would you trust any defendant when they say, I'm innocent? I wouldn't automatically trust them. No. Okay. I'd give them a trial and I'd do fair justice system, and I would do the same for the cops. But when somebody says, oh yeah, I shot him, but I'm innocent. No, my first instinct is not to trust them. Okay. But the media brainwashed you into thinking if it's the cops, they were obviously telling the truth and you should just drop it and let it go. No, here it is again. For the millionth time in a row, an obvious brazen lie by the police.
So I want to just mention one other concerning aspect of this story, because it does look like the scene was tampered with based on the images. And that's a problem because you're not supposed to mess with that scene in any way. You're not supposed to move objects in any way in order to do a thorough investigation and, to figure out what actually happened. Well, here's what Vice is reporting. The photos show an apartment riddled with bullets, including holes through the ceiling and nearly every room and wall. Bullets sprayed into 2 neighboring apartments, including up through the floor and into the ceiling of Taylor's upstairs neighbor. The photos also, in a few instances, appear to reveal discrepancies in the placement of several bullet casings between what is pictured at night and the following day. So looks like some of the bullet casings were moved, and that's a problem, not based on my own opinion, but based on actual experts. No one is supposed to touch anything. The former officer who asked to remain anonymous told Vice they should be exactly the same as they were the night before. I mean, this is like, You guys are smart. I don't mean to insult your intelligence. You know that. Everyone knows that. That's just common knowledge of what happens in a crime scene or any scene where someone was gunned down and murdered.
But
So
look at that former cop. He's a good guy, and he's saying you shouldn't tamper with evidence. But he's so afraid of all of the other cops are clearly bad guys that he says it anonymously. Something as benign as you shouldn't tamper with evidence, he has to say anonymously. Oh, right. There's a couple of bad apples. No, the whole system is terribly corrupt. And by the way, in case you don't know, the one police officer who was fired, he was not necessarily fired for killing Breonna Taylor. He's the guy who fired into the other apartment buildings because he's firing blindly. He's like, who cares? I was taught and I was trained, never take any risk with your life. So he's like, who cares if I indiscriminately kill people in other apartments too? And one of the apartments had a baby in it and barely missed the baby. And so it appears he was fired for firing into the other apartments as well. Like killing Breonna Taylor, no big deal. We got the wrong house. We killed someone. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
No, there was no body cameras. None at all. Don't worry about it. Take our word for it. There's a picture of the cop with a body camera on him. Nope. Everybody in the media, do your job. Report that there were no body cameras and the cops are always the good guys. No deal. Not true. You're lying.
All right, look, we have so many depressing stories we have to talk about every day, but every once in a while there's a story that's just too delicious to not share with you all. Sometimes we have victories, and the race between Joe Kennedy and Ed Markey is a good example of that. So, Democratic strategists are super bitter about the fact that Ed Markey beat his primary challenger, Joe Kennedy, for the Senate seat in Massachusetts. Now, Ed Markey is the incumbent, and he is someone who has embraced the left. But it turns out that Democratic strategists who usually get paid to fail don't understand that concept. And that was clear in some reporting in Politico. So first off, let's just quickly focus on how badly Joe Kennedy lost. Kennedy lost every precinct in East Boston Tuesday. His campaign was too confident for too long. It didn't think the usual rules applied, or that the 74-year-old Markey had enough fight in him to fend off one of the Democratic Party's brightest young stars. Well, I guess he was wrong. So what did the Democratic strategists have to say about it? Well, one was quoted as saying, of course anonymously, the Markey campaign did a masterful job convincing voters Ed is someone he is not. One other Kennedy ally was quoted as saying, this goes to show you that the left doesn't do their homework and they're easily won over by bright, shiny objects. Now, of course, Ed Markey, I like the guy. I wouldn't refer to him as a bright, shiny object. He's been in office since 1976. Not in the Senate. He was in the House for a while. And he's 74 years old. I'm not trying to be ageist or anything, but he's been around for a while. He's not like a brand new young Congress member who's like a con artist. No, we know what his record is. Anyway.
Yeah. So let me jump in on that on a couple of fronts. So first of all, the assumption here is that Ed Markey is not really a progressive and progressives were fooled into voting for him. Preposterous. So I've covered politics for 25 years. Do I know that Ed Markey has some issues? Did we talk about that on the show? Yes. He voted for the Iraq War, etc. But has Ed Markey been consistently, significantly more progressive than his counterparts? Yes, he has. And did he do the most important thing, which is actually co-sponsor a Green New Deal in the Senate and stick his neck out and take a political risk to co-sponsor Green New Deal? Yes. So in fact, if you had any political sense at all, what you would say is the exact opposite. So here was a guy who was relatively progressive, who then became even more progressive before the election because he realized that young people and a lot of the voters actually want him to do progressive policies. And so he was smart about that. And then progressives, instead of looking at shiny objects, are like, oh, 39-year-old Kennedy, rising star. I mean, if anything's a shiny
like Joe
object,
Kennedy, yeah.
Joe Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
Instead of falling for that shiny object just because he's younger and Nancy Pelosi tells you he's a star and because he raised $5 million and his last name is Kennedy, we instead looked at the policy. And look, even Politico, it's not just the consultants, the tenor of the article, they just cannot get it through their head that we care about policy. They find it inconceivable. It's not on a list of possible reasons for a win or a loss in an election. So they're like, that's weird. That's weird. Why didn't they go for the younger guy? And we all told them to go for the younger guy, and they're young, and he's a Kennedy, and we have all these artificial boxes that he checked off. So why couldn't we trick them into voting for him? I'll tell you why.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can trick them because there's a thing called the internet.
Yes,
where we look
exactly.
up those policies, and we actually care. In the old days, you're right, you could trick people because you would just go talk to the television anchors and the New York Times and Boston Globe, etc., and you would whisper in their ear, kill. That's it. Markey's the bad guy. Kennedy's the good guy. Never talk about policy. Tell everybody Markey's a has-been, and we have a young new star, and that would be that. And they're right. Until very recently, that worked all of the time. Now, we don't give a damn what a stupid TV anchor says. And we know they're bought and paid, and they're part of the corporate media and the corrupt system. So, sad day for you. The younger generation and progressives are much smarter than you guys. So, go cry.
Oh God, yes, go cry. I love it. I love telling people to go cry. No, but like, you're absolutely right, Cenk. So, yes, the internet has a lot to do with it. Access to information has a lot to do with it. It's a lot more difficult to spread your pro whatever propaganda and convince people that a candidate is going to do the right thing and carry out policies that are in your best interest. But also there's another element to it that I really want to touch on, and it's that sense of entitlement. Look, remember, the millennial generation was drilled into our heads, okay, since we were wee little ones, that if you work really hard, this is the land of opportunity, the American dream. Just go to school, do everything right. This is a meritocracy. You have to earn it, but you can do it, right? And we all did not all, but a lot of us, we did the right thing. We went to school, we got our education. A lot of us got graduate degrees. A lot of us did everything we were supposed to do, we decided to abide by everything. And then we find ourselves in this 2008 recession, and it becomes increasingly difficult to pay for college, to just do the basics, right? To buy a home. That's like incredibly difficult in America right now, especially if you're a millennial. It's nearly impossible if you're a Zoomer, okay? Generation Z. And so then Joe Kennedy shows up, and the corporate Democrats are like, it's the dynasty. It's the dynasty. And the way he read his campaign was like, I am entitled to this, right? He didn't say it overtly, but that was the whole tone of his campaign. And I want to read you one other excerpt from this piece. For a well-liked candidate accustomed to largely flattering coverage since his election to Congress in 2017, for example, Town and Country magazine ran a feature on the congressman under the headline, Meet the Next President Kennedy. The inability to shape coverage came as a surprise. So the Kennedy campaign was irritated that the media didn't just like play ball, right? Which, by the way, there was a lot of favorable coverage toward him, but they got very salty when the Boston Globe didn't endorse him and endorsed Markey instead. And here's another excerpt. Kennedy had already lost his cash advantage over Markey months earlier after spending $2.4 million in television ads in the spring that failed to move the dial, a critical mistake, according to several allies. In the final months, Kennedy replaced his TV consultant. So he just thought, like, I got some money. Let me just buy up some TV ads. He didn't do, the necessary campaigning. He thought that he had the media in the bag. He's like, yeah, the media's going to endorse me. They love me. I'm rising superstar. Everything's great. No, like, young people not only have the access to information, but we're super bitter when we've been told that this country is a meritocracy, and we've seen over and over and over again that it's not. And then you have this guy come in and think, dynasty. And he has this sense of entitlement, and it turned people off. And so the left is a lot smarter than these loser Democratic strategists think. We're awake and we're experiencing it. This is our life experience. This is our worldview because of what we've had to go through so far. And we want to change things. And if they don't like it, they can go ahead and cry about it.
So there's so many things I love in this story. When he assumes, well, I raised $5 million for the Democratic Party in the last cycle. Obviously, all of the media will be on my side. And by the way, most of the time that assumption is absolutely true. One of the reasons that it wasn't true in this race is progressives came in with a huge showing for Markey and shook the media. But another reason is because he was running against an incumbent. So the media, if it's a progressive challenger, it's easier to dismiss. They go, oh, please, they're not part of any dynasty. But in this case, Ed Markey has been around for 40 years in Massachusetts politics. So it was harder to brush him off. And so Kennedy miscalculated on that. But he assumed that the media would always be on the side of a corporate Democrat, which is normally a fair assumption. And so then when Markey attacked his family name, they were just shell-shocked. I mean,
dynasty.
Yeah. I mean, and Nancy Pelosi came out and said, that's it. I mean, if you're going to attack a dynasty, that's we elitists in the Democratic leadership, we take great umbrage in that. And she's like, I've worked with many members of the Kennedy family, including second cousin Patrick. Okay. And that's why when Rebellion PAC ran an ad called Second Cousin Patrick. Okay. And so, look, we had a small role in it because we got in late, but we maxed out to him. We ran ads for Markey against Kennedy. My favorite line, as I told you, was in Boston, we don't bow down at kings. We throw their crap in a harbor. Okay. And so that resonated, rebellionpac.com. And so, but the Democratic leadership is so elitist in their core, they thought that people in Massachusetts, of all places, would bow down to royalty. Man, were they wrong, and I love that they were wrong. And now, finally, now that the race is over, for one day on that election night, Alex Thompson from Politico tweeted about, oh my God, even Democratic consultants realize maybe you should embrace progressive policies and AOC. But as soon as the cloud clears, they're like, oh, right, no, we were right for a second. Sorry about that. And one of the focuses of this article was that that Kennedy lost because he ran his TV ads in the wrong month. That is not why he lost. You're amazing. It's amazing how wrong they are. So, but they're never going to get it, whether it's the national media or Democratic establishment. They're never going to wake up one day and go, oh, right, we're the corrupt ones. No, they're going to make excuse after excuse after excuse. But guys, there's great news in that, because if they're asleep at the wheel, we're going to keep cleaning their clock. So let's go get them. If you thought 2018 was awesome with the squad winning, if you thought 2020 was good with Squad 2.0 with Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Marie Newman, and so many others, and now Ed Markey beating their beloved Joe Kennedy and his millions of dollars, wait till you get a load of 2022. So, hey, if you want to think, oh, it's all about the mechanics, man. If you run your ads in the right month, it'll all be okay. Have at it, Hoss. But it's going to be a reckoning in 2022. All right, guys, we're out of time, but we're not out of shows. Happy Half Hour is next. Brett's going to have Michael Shore. Epic is on. Epic knows a lot about politics, but does he know a lot about alcohol? Okay, so we'll find out. And later tonight, Common Room, also with Brett and John and their significant others. It's a cutie Common Room, twitch.tv/TYT. So check that out as well. Have a great Labor Day. We love you guys.
welcome to the Happy Half Hour. I'm Brett Ehrlich, and joining me, well, the Chirons were backwards. Joining me is Michael. I'm Michael Shore. Let's put the Chiron up before we replace it. I'm Michael Shore, and joining me
is Brett Ehrlich. It's great to be here.
Oh my God, look at us. You know why I think it was seemingly interchangeable? It's because we've been on shows together for years and years and years, Michael.
Yeah, we have shared the screen before this episode of Happy Half Hour.
Yes, we have. We did the War Room together. What was your full takeaway from the experience of the War Room on current TV? Because it was originally Jennifer Granholm, and then Al Jazeera bought it, and she ran away from any affiliation with that. Then it was you. What was that feel?
I don't remember her, but Granholm, I remember the name. I guess I remember a little bit, but it was the War Room with Michael Shore, as far as I recall the show. And my takeaway was that I had a blast. I loved it. I was working in San Francisco, living up there 4 days a week. I got to do a series on the civil rights movement. I got to interview members of Congress and activists, and it was so much fun. And since then I've been a field reporter out in America covering politics, which I really do love. But if I could get the War Room back, I'd be a happy man too. Somebody the other day said, "Would you rather be an anchor or a reporter?" And it's a tough call, but hosting that show was really fun.
What makes it such a tough call between the two? What are the upsides of each?
Because it's sort of invigorating being out in America and being, following campaigns and seeing people at rallies and going, trudging through the snow to hear some senator who's never going to win the presidency tell you why he thinks he should win the presidency. There's something pretty cool about that. And that's something I'd always wanted to do. And I really love doing it. But having your own show, having your say, having a staff that kind of is all pitching in to put something on the air every day and then throw to some comedy in LA at the end of the show. I loved that too. And so that's what makes it a tough call.
Yeah, so for those who are not familiar, I did a segment at the end called Shush, Brett's Talking Now, which originally started out as like a pre-taped situation, but I think eventually became just like an interview live hit situation.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's true. And that was really fun. I can't believe there are people that don't know what the War Room is. So you should just, so you just say it. People just talk about Brett's talking.
That was it. That was a great experience that I put a lot of work into, that really honed my conciseness in terms of like joke preparation and delivery. But I also use it as a way to deliver a segment very early in the day and then literally go to Disneyland. So thank you for that opportunity.
Literally, I know that's fact.
So I want to ask one question before we go to like our opening segment, but you have this cycle traveled around America. Is there something about this cycle that you feel is unique to this cycle versus other?
Absolutely. Most voters I spoke to this cycle, as opposed to other cycles when I've been out in the country, they really, and this is why I believe from the get-go, even after Nevada, that Joe Biden was going to get the nomination, because most people I spoke to around the country thought he had a better chance of beating Trump. Whether or not that's the case, we'll know soon. But this was not about what big ideas are out there. And I think that to an extent, obviously, that would hurt somebody like Bernie Sanders. Not that his ideas weren't great, not that they didn't have a lot of people who believed in them, but there are a lot of people I spoke to who believed in what Bernie Sanders said, didn't think he could win, and voted for Joe Biden. And that's not just one or two people. That's dozens of people that I spoke to, which just shows you that electability, which is so impossible to define. Like, you look at Bernie Sanders, you know he's going to try and get Medicare for all, easily defined. You look at Joe Biden and you say he's the most electable. Well, what does that mean, right?
Right.
That's what made this unique, is that there are people who didn't necessarily, everybody likes Joe Biden to a degree. People who didn't love him as their dream candidate, who said, there's no way I'm not going to vote for Biden because I think he can win.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that perception of electability is unavoidably rooted in the past. and your reference to what you think has worked in previous iterations.
Well, for sure, and your images of what it means. Like, what are we thinking? Donald Trump won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio. What do most living Americans think of when they hear blue collar workers there? They think white, middle-aged men going to the production line. It's not a fair representation. But
yeah, I just thought like California went through like recall craziness, then like we went through Schwarzenegger celebrity governor, and then we went, just give me Jerry Brown, I don't care, I'll go back. And then I saw that happening with Trump, and it's like maybe that's exactly what they want with Biden. It's crazy, but this is the end of the week. It's a time to kind of unwind, and plus we do have some weird, crazy stuff about politics later on. But I do want to check in with how everyone's doing mentally, which we do in this segment. Stay safe, stay sane. Before we get to Michael's experience, I want to share like how I've stayed sane and some of you have stayed sane. The one thing I saw that kept me sane this week is this tweet from Al Green, where someone went through and changed the W in Walgreens to a picture of Al Green, and Al Green tweeted, "Who did this?"
It's so good. Yeah, it's fantastic. I retweeted it today. I saw it for the first time today.
So good. And I thought it's like that when you see the arrow in the FedEx logo, you're never like every time you see it from then on, that's all you see.
This is going to be Al Green's forever.
We have a couple viewer tweets. So one was burgers and beer from Humont77, just burgers and beer. Another, Adam Francis Fox tweeted, the West Wing is keeping them happy and sane. Scott Bernard tweeted, the Young Turks. And then this is my favorite from El Pollo Loco. Knowing that my pooping bathroom hasn't been closed at the school I work at, and it included a photo of I think it was Elmo on a pooping toilet. But I love the pooping bathroom. Thank God it's open. We had one in the Fine Arts building in high school, and it was fantastic. Michael, how are you staying safe and sane?
Well, I'm staying sane this week. It was National Record Store Day earlier this week, and yeah, it was. And I went to a record store. I drove by and there was this long line, so I called them from my car to say, "What's going on?" They said it's National Record Store Day. So of course it is. And so I made a U-turn and I went back and I waited online and I got into the store and I bought records that I didn't need and records that I once owned and gave away. And it was just reassuring because everyone there, it looked like when times were simpler. And I think that there's a yearning for that. And it just made me happy being there. That's how I stayed sane. I don't know if I was safe, but I was sane.
Yeah, no, definitely not safe. But definitely sane. I love it. Well, I am grateful that you are here. I'm grateful that you're seeming to hold it together, or at least that the facade you put up for the masses seems convincing.
That's I'll take option 2, Brett, for 100.
Absolutely. We got a whole lot of show for everybody. We got some crazy, totally normal people that others have labeled as crazy, but I will contend that they're totally normal people. Don't go away. We got a lot more happy half hour after this. There are a lot of totally normal people in the news. We're going to talk about them. Our first totally normal person is a police officer who was trying to arrest a woman who seemed like a journalist. Originally, he didn't want to arrest her, but she did something that turned out to be unforgivable. She talked about the size of his penis, and things completely changed. Here's our totally normal interaction.
I'm gonna ask you one more time. Pick up your stuff and stop.
No, what I'm telling you is that you just got arrested last night and you're putting us in a difficult position every time. Just don't be out here after curfew. We don't want to deal with it.
Goodbye. Nothing to report anyway.
That's what we were trying to show everybody.
Well, how long does it take? What is it?
There's been nobody out here for a couple hours. Right, but after curfew, like from 6 o'clock on, there's been nobody here.
Ma'am, keep walking.
I'm going 397. I'm walking. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm
walk.
walking. You don't need to touch me.
Goodbye.
I'm walking. You don't need to touch me. At this point, you're just showing all of us how little your is. I'm out.
You're under arrest.
For what?
Disorderly conduct and curfew.
I'm not. You've got 4. Don't touch me. I haven't done anything.
She's under arrest.
For what? For what? I haven't done anything. I'm not doing anything. He's
Calm
like
down.
waiting for this.
Calm down, okay?
I saw that. So Trashy Plays is one of our moderators on Twitter, and Trashy was like, "Take a look at this," and he was like, and the label on Twitter, what? Oh, he's our mod on Twitch. My wife like appeared to be like, "It's Twitch, you idiot." I'd like to thank Trashy Plays, who's our mod on Twitch, who was like, "Take a look at this," and it said that the guy arrested the woman because she said he had a little penis. And I was like, all right, fine, maybe it'll be something tangentially related. But I didn't know it would turn on it so quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really know what she did. Like, I don't know why he came up on her in the first place, but certainly seemed pretty fine what she said, in the whole scheme of things. He said disorderly conduct, which she seemed very orderly to me, and cursing, which I didn't think.
So it was curfew. That's what he said. He said
curfew.
disorderly conduct and curfew. So it seems this is in Kenosha. She, from the context clues I could gather, because there's not a lot of information, it's the people talking said that they were reporters trying to report on what's happening at that time. And the guy was like, nothing's really happening. And they're like, we really want to, we want to document that there's not any unrest after hours. And then she agreed to go. And it wasn't until she said, "You're demonstrating how little your penis is," that he turned on her. It's just so transparent and obvious. I'm so glad she has the tape.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I guess she's lucky, it being Kenosha, that she got out of there alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus, it's so crazy. The line I've been going with lately is like, Trump said, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. But now he's saying, hey, just go down to Fifth Avenue and shoot people and I'll let you get away with it.
Right, there's that too. I'll lionize you.
So ridiculous. So that's the first totally normal person. Our next totally normal person is someone that I've been calling Wal Martin. He is in Alaska, but from what he's wearing, you'll gather that he's quite a Texas Longhorns fan. Here is the interaction the two of them had.
Get back on your highway to hell and get out of a godly man's face. No, I will. By your very blind, ignorant, you don't have the ability to even come up with your own ideas.
You saw this?
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Get out of a godly man's face is the best line. I mean, I can't stand him, but he does get credit for that one.
In this side, like the godly man's face is shouting at people who are like, I'm just trying to give you low prices.
Right.
It's so crazy. It's like, oh, I love it. So he goes on.
You're right. Also the fish out of water thing, this thick Texas accent, the orange sweats or what are surgical pants they look like the Longhorns had and the accent, and he's in Alaska. It's just incredible.
He's also got gloves on, which you can see in this next part. This is a 2-minute interaction. Here's the next little bit of it. Take a look.
Please, thank you. I believe when I see you've not established authority to tell me to leave. You go get management. You want your car? You find management that I can no longer. Yeah. You have board management here. You want to speak to the store? Are you exercising your right as a private company? Take away my rights.
Jesus Christ.
You can refuse service. Are you refusing my service?
Yes.
Why don't you say we refuse your service? No. I choose to yell, and you cannot stop me.
And it's sort of like I've seen this for like 5 times, and now I kind of love him. I love him.
I mean, yeah, I love him, except obviously I hate everything about him. But he's a good version of this. He's an entertainer, and the volume and the sort of modulating his voice and all of it is just breathtaking. Also the gloves. Yeah, it is Alaska, right? So,
yeah.
But Alaska's had a hot summer too, so it was probably like 60 in Alaska, and he's got gloves on, but he doesn't have a mask on, and that's why.
I love that it's at Walmart, where it's like, this is your home. Like,
right,
you're eating your own at this point. Like, these are people that are like, listen, we just ask. There's so much about it. Like the fact that he's kind of like wading into legalese. He's like, you're refusing my rights.
No, he said you're refusing my service, which they weren't doing. They were refusing his custom. They're the people giving service. We have the right to refuse service. It's not your service that we're asking for. Leave.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, right. Thank you for your service. That's a great one. We should just walk up to the, hey, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. So great. There's more. Let's watch.
Hey, that's cool. Bye. And please return to your service of Satan in your ignorant belief in your rights. That's cool. Bye.
It's all about service to this guy. Service to Satan, refusing the service. This guy's, he's in the service industry.
It's so crazy. Like all these folks, it's like, I don't know. He's trying to be he's already said godly. He's doing an impression of two people. One is a preacher, right? Yeah. Some preacher that's shouting down Satan. And the other is like a meme he read about what his rights are.
And the other is Louis Gossett, an officer and a gentleman. So it's three, actually.
Three. It's the triptych. It's like the center of a triple Venn diagram.
Triptych, yeah.
All right, there's more. Let's watch.
Please, in the future, respect my rights. No one else's. You will never get my 6-foot space and then think I'm not going to tell you. I will tell you you're wrong.
I love that. Like, there's also like, because there's like archetypes of just like white dudes, and the white dude that I like is the cul-de-sac I grew up on, the suburban, just being like, imagine being married to that guy. Like that's the one. It's like great going up against the others. Like in the future, respect my rights, and he literally says, and no one else's. Like this is a bad argument.
Yeah. Is he? Was he named ever?
No, I have not seen him be named, and I don't need to. That's why I'm calling him Walter Martin.
Walter Martin. Yeah, Walter Martin. Yeah. I like naming them. I like when they get named. This is funny. I mean, the viewers can't see this, but I see the three pictures: the one that's on the air, and then yours, and then mine. We look like the run of presidents, like when it went from Grant to Hayes to Garfield. They just had the beards, and one of them was kind of gray. And anyway, that's a Michael Schur take on this.
Do you have any other obscure trivia you want to do? How many minutes do you have on like Rutherford B. Hayes?
I can tell you a little bit about President Hayes. Elected in 1876, his fraudulency. They was elected by the House, made a trade with the South during Reconstruction so he could get their votes.
No, that's not true. None of that's true. He's making it up, everyone. He's
former general, former governor of.
What's the B stand for?
Burchard.
Full.
Burchard with an I. Birchar.
No. Beelzebub. And return to your service of Satan. We have to take a break. When we come back, we got the best thing ever of the week. Don't go away. All right, it's time for the best thing ever of the week. The best thing ever of the week is this initiative to try to save the post office. It started with Bonnie Puns, who got 300,000,000,000 likes because the USPS is besieged by Louis DeJoy trying to take it apart and Donald Trump trying to win the election. It's very obvious to me, maybe not to you, but I'm smarter. So here is the attempt to save it. This tweet from Bonnie Puns says, "We must sexualize the USPS in order to save it." And everybody loved that. And Amy Aniobi, she wrote on The Office, she wrote on Silicon Valley. She says, WAP, wet ass postal.
Nice.
And then here's Ira Madison III from Crooked Media tweeted, "Does the USPS have an OnlyFans? Let's really get them some coin." And then everybody kind of jumped in to try to get some kind of sexiness for the post office. You know what I mean? So folks were retweeting this tweet from the good place of Cheaty as a postal worker. Very sexy for those of you who watch that show. And Alexandrite said, the USPS is an integral part of our lives and it is essential it be safe to protect mail-in votes, small businesses and rural communities. For every $10 or more spent on USPS stamps with proof of receipt, I will draw you a little doodle like this one here. And obviously it's a very sexy anime.
Look at that.
There it is.
What's there, the joy of sex photoshopped cover?
What minute into the show is it before a sure pun?
Sorry, yeah. It was late.
No, I believe me, I'm all about it. And then I've got a couple more graphics. One is the USPS Chan needs your help. You can help her by contacting your representatives or buying stamps. Love letter, DM me proof of you texting USPS to 50409, and I'll send you a USPS Chan lewd. If you DM me a receipt of you buying the USPS store from the USPS store, I'll send you a second lewd. Save the USPS. And here's an example which I found alluring: stamps. I like that. I like to look at that. I'm just gonna admit that I like looking at that, and I like that she's like, listen, this is a skimpy thing. I'm gonna put stamps over to cover areolae. Anyway, so what are your thoughts on this, Michael?
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of the post office, and I think this is a great idea, and I'm behind it, so to speak, 100%.
What do you think about this whole like dismantling of the post office thing? Do you think like, am I being paranoid when I say that, you know, the any and all strategy of Donald Trump and friends to solidify their hold on power includes taking the post office apart?
I mean, we talk about the president and his underhanded efforts. This is overhanded. This is actually taking a truck and removing mailboxes and removing sorters. I mean, and taking overtime away. This is blatant, and this is not under cover of dark. This is just happening, or it was. And I think credit to many in Congress who don't very often get it and are not liked, but they responded to this thing, and America responded to this thing. And I think it was there was enough time during which, if I was the president, I'd be pissed that I didn't sort of start this on October 23rd to try and have this happen, where we do all this and there was no time to put it in reverse.
Speaking of October 23rd, earlier this week it was announced that Trump was like setting aside time to announce to like fast track a vaccine for release on November 1st.
Right. Well, of course. I mean, that's an obvious date to release a vaccine. Like it's almost like it's a book. Like it's ready, but we're not going to release it until the 1st.
Right. That's what that's my initial instinct is like, oh, the messaging should be, so Trump's withholding a vaccine until Election Day. So this many people will die, and we can quantify it.
Right. I can't think clearly until I ask this question. What's a Chan?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's
the fact that you don't know it. That's all. I felt like I was just missing something because I'm closer to Tom Seaver's age than the people who say Chan. But let's move back to this. I think that, you know, Fauci and others have said that there may be a way of fast tracking a vaccine if there are results from that vaccine, and then they could move it up quickly if they see unprecedented results. Right now, fast tracking would be to the end of the year. November 1st is toward the end of the year, but it's not the end of the year, and I can't see them trying to put that in on November 1st. And I think that there's such transparency about this guy now that you're not going to say, oh, I wasn't going to vote for Trump, but now that he solved COVID, I'm going to vote for him. I think everybody who thinks that way is already voting for the guy.
How is it so close, Michael? Like, I know it's not close, but how is it close?
I don't think it's that close. I mean, how are people voting for this guy is you know, it's beyond me. There are people who love celebrities. Donald Trump was a celebrity before he became president. There's no bigger celebrity than the president. So the power of incumbency on top of the power of his already existing, persona, and the fact that he facilitates a lot of what people keep inside, and a lot of those people who aren't educated, and I mean, you look at the numbers today from polling, the educated voters, the disparity between educated voters who are supporting Biden and Trump and uneducated voters supporting Trump over Biden, it speaks for itself, and it's a sad state, but it is the non-college whites versus the college whites, and the non-college whites are carrying the day with Donald Trump.
The college whites sounds like a laundry cycle. I got to do my college whites on hot and my non-college whites on hot, warm.
Right.
Anyways, that's all the time we have for the main section of this show. We're going to do some web-only extras for the viewers who follow us on HHH on TYT, but also members get the extended version. So for those of you leaving us now, it was great. The rest of us get to spend more time with Michael. Thank you so much. See you next time. Here's a segment I forgot we had, Science for the Win. Michael Shores here. We got a lot of science news that was happening that was really awesome. So I thought I'd put it all together. And
is Happy Half Hour like The Price is Right, where there are different pricing games that you'll see on one episode and not on another? Like is Science for the Win, once in a while you'll see it, and there are other segments we won't see today?
Yes, this is the Plinko of the show.
Okay, good.
I think Plinko's actually what the F is happening here, where that's more of a game situation. This is just
is this the climbing in the Swiss Alps of the
yodeler, the yodeling mountain climber, where he like dies most of the time.
The guy's going up there with his little pickaxe.
What a morbid ass game. It's just a guy dying and you're responsible.
Yeah.
People are like 7 and that killed it.
Good. All right. Sorry.
No. Here are the science stories. The amazing science stories that are happening. In Japan, they apparently have solved the problem that is the flying car. So SkyDrive Inc. conducted the first demonstration of a flying car in Japanese history. The car, named SD03, manned with a pilot, took off and circled the field at the Toyota Test Track Center for about 4 minutes. You might be asking yourself, what does that look like? We're gonna show you as we discuss and comment on it. So Michael, here it is. This is the flying car. What are your thoughts as you watch it occur?
Well, first I have to watch it, and then I'll tell you. Right?
No, I want it real time, Michael.
Yeah, okay, it's like it's pretty impressive the way it takes off like a drone almost, and there's a guy in it, and it's a car. This is the Jetsons. This is exactly what he's got to pull out the wallet to give some money to Mrs. Jetson.
Yeah. So. Off to Spacely Sprockets. So they want to have the first actual flying car by 2028. So this test it was about 2 meters in the air in a very confined location.
It feels very Wright Brothers-y. I mean, I think if we were watching the first Kitty Hawk, we'd say, just went up a few feet, I don't see it. And now we fly everywhere. So I think probably this is a blueprint for something that'll be a lot more normal at some point.
Do you think it would be normal? Like, would you? I just think things would have to be higher for me to be into that.
Right, like the in and out.
Right, like it's just adding something more dangerous.
It's definitely adding some more dangerous. I suspect that everything will get safer, barring some sort of computer glitch. But meaning that you'll be able to control. It's not as manually controlled. That there's not anybody like looking down, changing a song in their iPhone and whatever. I think that you plug in where you're going, you sit there, and it just takes you. Is kind of how I see it, which is I think safer than what we have now. I don't think we'll be alive for any of this, but
right, yeah, because it's like a drone that you sit in and control. And I've seen people control drones from the ground. Like I live near the beach, and I see people on the beach like do it. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen like haul ass to run into the water before it crashes and catch it. Like
yeah. I just think that it's. I agree with you. I think that it is the once it's programmed, it will be safe. Like you'll be able to just punch it in and just sit there and go like an elevator.
Well, there are some people who have taken it upon themselves to be able to fly, including this story. I'm just going to start with an account of an American Airlines pilot who told the air traffic control tower, American 1997, we just passed a guy in a jetpack. A few moments later, SkyWest pilot says, we just saw the guy passing us in the jetpack. So apparently at Los Angeles International Airport, there was a guy in a jetpack who was flying around 300 yards from a flying plane that was trying to land near LAX. The pilot said the man was flying with a jetpack at 3,000 feet, only about 300 yards from an Airbus A321, which is a big ass plane.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and they haven't found this guy, right? They don't know who the guy is or anything about it. Yeah. And then the next day, David Blaine grabs some balloons and goes up into the sky. So I don't know what's going on. We have planes. You can get there if you want. I don't know. It's the jetpack story is wild to me, and I believe it because two different pilots on two different airlines said it. You know,
yeah.
And they're not
now
because American Eagle, as you know, is the commuter carrier for American Airlines, Brett.
That is true. If you're not, if you're not a Delta Compass kind of kid,
right?
So thank you. I know a lot about FAA. We can go toe to toe. Michael, last question of your appearance here, your maiden voyage here on Happy Half Hour, your ferry flight, so to speak.
Right.
It's a completely different thing.
My final round, maybe, for all I know.
What? No, you'll be back. What if you could have a jetpack that someone was like, it's safe, it's moderately safe, but it's all up to how good a jetpacker you are?
No.
Would you do it?
No, I would not. I would not.
Yeah, I mean,
A, because I'd be a terrible jetpacker. And B, because I don't, that doesn't thrill me. That scares me.
Yeah, no, I'm like that. That's most of my answers are just like that.
Yeah.
Why are you so afraid?
Brett, we'll talk about that on the next time.
Okay. It's a date. We just made a date. We'll talk about the coward Michael Schur next time on Happy Half Hour. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
I loved it. This has really actually been a blast. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you guys for watching, and gals and gender non-binaries. I don't care who you are. I just love you. See you next time on Happy Half Hour.